Mr. Mark LaMaskin, thanks for joining me, buddy.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'll maybe tell the quick little backstory as to how this came to be, because you and I were in the same town last weekend, and I had it in the back of my head. I'm like, I gotta track Mark down in person and see if I can get him on the podcast, because I always hear stories of your connection to the car world and everything else. And I'm going like, okay, the car show will be where I can do it. I should have known better, because car shows are either the best place or the worst place to run into somebody. And naturally, you were going east, I was going west. We never got to do it, but I got home, sent you a message and said, hey, buddy, are you free this week? And we got to bullshitting this week, and here we are.
Well, I remember seeing you at the show, and I didn't know who you were. And I was just like, I saw your car, and I'm like, that's cool, because I didn't bring a Saleen Mustang to the Saleen Mustang Nationals either. So I thought that was funny. But unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, it's a way for me to connect to people that I don't see that often. So all of a sudden I get there, and I've been doing this for a few years, and people just, they want your time. They want you to look at the car. They want to catch up. And before you know it, 3 days is gone.
Yeah.
So, and you were doing all those autograph sessions and bikini posing and everything else. So I couldn't catch up to you either. And
my wife absolutely hates when I'm in the corner signing tits. I know it's never good for the marriage.
When you hold them too long, you can't hold them too long, and your hand can't be cold. So you got to warm
totally.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, buddy, no, thank you for doing this and taking the time. We're doing it on a Friday night. So yeah.
Well, when you get to be
time away from the family.
There's not a lot of excitement on Friday night. So I was probably going to go home and look for cars that I shouldn't buy on the computer, and then probably fall asleep at probably 9:30. So my life is not very exciting anymore.
Yeah. Well, on that note, sir, I mean, I don't even know where we could try to pick a good spot, like maybe something generic, like, when did you start falling in love with cars? When did you know that this was going to be something that you were going to do the rest of your life? Or was it like most of us, where you just wake up one day and go like, holy shit, I've pretty much revolved my whole life around cars?
I just have always liked cars. I've always had a fascination with cars, especially fast cars. And I was never a good student. I am one of those people that they call dyslexic. So I didn't like reading. I wasn't good in school. I got good grades because I studied and I took good notes. And I always found the cute girl in the class that I could, help her, or they could help me, with tutoring. But I don't know. I've always liked cars. I was not a sports guy. My dad was not into sports. Even like NASCAR, any of that stuff, just not into any of that. So I naturally fell, for the car scene, and, started playing with cars really, really early on. I mean, real cars, not toy cars. So.
Yeah. 'Cause I know it was more of the, I guess, from the Saleen world that I had heard your name come up so often, but from what I'm gathering, I don't think it's Saleen is maybe, like a little piece of this puzzle, but the puzzle is a lot bigger.
The puzzle's pretty big. I mean, to give you an example, when I was 16 and 17, I was working with a gentleman out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and we were importing cars, the old, gray market stuff, EPA and DOT, and bringing cars in from Germany and other places and getting them certified and selling them. And that's what I was doing in high school. And I always had a fascination with European cars. And I'm playing with tons of Porsches now too, believe it or not. But one of the things that and I said this to you and we talked a little bit earlier, people are always like, I'm just so surprised you don't have a big Mustang tattoo or a Ford whatever. And I said, look, man, I'm a Ford guy. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, there's a Z06 sitting right behind me. That's a 25 Z06. I like Corvettes too. I like everything. But when I went to open up my business, it was either buy one Testarossa or 15 Mustangs. And it was the business aspect of it. What can I make the most money with? And I said, if I sell enough Mustangs, I can buy a Testarossa, but I can't, buy one car and try to make a living off of it. So that's how the Mustang business started. And I looked at Mustangs like, I'm 59, like I said, and I looked at the older guys and they loved the 57 Chevys and stuff, and they loved all these cars. I'm like, what's going to be the next niche car that I can be known for ahead of time? So it was all part of a plan to put myself into a position that I'd be somewhat, known for that type of vehicle. And I felt like the Fox Body Mustang was the next 57 Chevy that people were buying and modifying. They were not expensive. And then I found the Saleen Mustangs and really, really liked those. And there was nobody that was specializing in those. And I'm the only person that really stayed with it. There's some people that bought and sold stuff, but they didn't stay in business long, that really specialize in buying and selling those cars too, along with other stuff.
Okay. So I'm just trying to like give myself an imaginary viewpoint of like the time, the place, the whatever. So high school, you're horsing around with European imports, which I guess while we're on that topic, it's funny how like even the Mustang, well, hell, the start of the Fox Body Mustang in the 79, the yellow one over my shoulder, right? With the European influence. I mean, you take the Carroll Shelby of the world, right? And he was over in the UK racing. And like there's all this interesting crossover from North American and European stuff. And the people that I typically find that have the most interesting appreciation for these cars and or their tastes when they go to personalize them and modify them typically have a love for European flair. I don't want that to sound rainbowy, but you know what I mean? There's an appreciation for that European influence. I'm the same way. Like I love the Mercedes. I like a lot of styling features from BMW. I like all the Italian stuff. I mean, it
Well,
all sort of cohesively blends.
mm-hmm. But you have to remember too, in my generation, growing up, a lot of the early '80s cars were dogs. I mean, and the Europeans still had
Mhm.
horsepower, and they were still performance cars. So, being a car person, I naturally progressed towards liking those cars that still were performance oriented vehicles. And then suddenly 1985 came around and Ford did the roller cam Mustang, and it was a performance car again. And when I was a kid, my dad said to me, "I'll help you buy one new car so you can go to college and have something decent to drive," because I always drove, crappy old cars. And I mean, I didn't have any money, and so I detailed cars, I mowed grass, I did whatever I could, and made money. And then I was, I guess, 17, and my dad said, "We need to order you whatever car you want. What did you decide that you wanted to get?" And I said to him, I said, "I want an 85, want a black 80, but my first experience with a black car, yeah. And I didn't know. And I said, "I want an 85 GT Mustang, 5-speed with T-tops and air conditioning. And I'm going to put my own radio in it, so I want the base radio." And he looked at me and goes, "Those are like $12,000 or $13,000. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got $7,000 saved up." And $7,000 in 1985 was bank. And that's before all
Yeah.
this digital stuff. So I actually had like a deposit book where you'd write everything in. And I said, "Dad, look." And he's like, "Holy shit. It looks like I've got to now come up with $6,000 to buy this car." And that was my first new car. And it was a Mustang, because we had a service business that we took care of, in material handling equipment, forklift trucks and racking and shelving. And he bought Ford vans. So I was naturally pushed towards the Ford product. And then the Mustang, became the natural choice for, a young, kid that wanted to go fast. So
Right. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. So the 85 Mustang was in your life prior to your adventures importing cars from Europe.
yeah, it was right around that
Okay.
same amount of time, but I knew I couldn't afford, a 911 SC at the time, and those cars were still $25,000, and the Mustang was $12,000. And
Right.
I didn't have a job. My job was to go to school, and the money I made on the side was just it was stuff that I'd saved for years. Yeah, but that's
Right.
part of the influence with
Okay.
that. But I've always appreciated all the European cars and everything else.
Yeah. Okay, so 1985 was this brand new, like we're
Brand new,
talking the
brand new,
year
came
is
off the truck.
1985?
Mhm. It was brand new.
Okay.
And it took a little
So,
while because I ordered T-tops,
so
which I wish I hadn't, but yeah.
right. Okay. So, give me an understanding, like in 85, had you heard of Saleen? Because if I'm not mistaken, Steve
Eight,
kind of started coming
yeah,
on the scene in 84, right?
84 was the first year they made 3 cars, and 85 was really the first year of production. There was 140 cars made. The way I knew about them was
Okay.
it took forever for my car to come in because I ordered T-tops, and on the showroom floor of Richmond Ford was a white Saleen Mustang with blue graphics and T-tops, and I'm like, "Dad, let's get this car." And it was, I don't know, like $8 or $9,000 more, and he looked at me and he goes, "You need to be grateful for what you're already getting. You don't have enough money to make up the difference, and we've already ordered a car for you." But it was that, you know, that old adage, you look at it, you want it, it turns on that prey drive of, okay, one day I'm going to have one of these things because I can't have it now. Not that I
You
wasn't
get bit.
grateful for what I was getting, but yeah, yep. So and it was, I know where that car is now.
Okay.
Crazy.
Really? The one that you saw on the showroom floor that day?
Yep. I know exactly where it is. I've been trying to buy it for years. I
Holy
ended up
shit.
taking
That would
care
be
of
a
it
good
for
one
the
to get.
lady who had it. When I was a kid, I was detailing and washing cars to make money. Other kids went to camp, they did all kinds of stuff. I was looking for a job to make money. And so I used to pick it up at her apartment complex, take it back to my parents' house, clean it, wash it, wax it, vacuum it, and then drive it back to her. And it's been sold 2 or 3 times since. And but I know where the car is now. So it's kind of
Oh,
cool. I'll
wild.
want it one day, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So you get an understanding or an appreciation of the whole Celine brand quite quickly there, like right in as they're coming onto the scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, a buddy of mine was a Shelby guy.
Okay. But you still got more life ahead of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But a buddy of mine was a Shelby guy. He had a '66 Shelby, and we used to drive that car everywhere. We'd go to the SAC events, which is the Shelby American Automobile Club events. We would drive it to Lime Rock for their event. So I understood that, the collectability of a specialty Mustang, and felt like that, that Steven and his company would then become that next collectible car. But I did not buy one of those cars until it was probably 1990 is when I bought my first Saleen Mustang. Um,
Okay.
and it was a Saleen SSC that I bought, and I know where that car is still too. But I was in college, I was working. I needed a car to drive. I didn't need I didn't have money for a toy.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Not buying it to collect it, just buying to go from A to B.
and it wasn't a car you wanted to drive every day. Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's
Right.
sort of all
Okay.
melted into one big pile of, okay, I'm a car person, and next thing you know, it's you don't just try a little bit of heroin. Next thing you know, you're addicted to it. From what I've been told. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So then how, like, where does the timeline go from there to you being, I guess, in a roundabout way, more involved with Celine and folks like myself hearing your name pop up all throughout? Like, it seems like your name pops up quite quickly after the Celine topic is brought to
Well,
the conversation.
like I said, I'm the only one that's had a real business centered around that brand that wasn't really affiliated with Saleen. And when I was in college, I bought and sold cars. I played with cars, and I had some crazy stuff. And then when I got out of school, I went to work for Auto Trader, taking pictures of cars on car lots and selling advertising. I did that for, I guess it was a year, and then I went to work for Sherwin-Williams, and I was teaching painters how to paint cars and the different products and stuff. And
Hmm.
then I went to work for my father for a couple of years, selling material handling equipment, forklift truck parts, and forklift truck stuff. And then once he felt like I had enough work experience under my belt, he said, "Hey, I'm going to sell this business, and you need to come up with something to do because he got enough money to retire and then some." And all the employees like, "What are you going to do now that you're going to retire?" I'm like, "Me?" I said, "I got to look for a job." I said, "I'm not going to have a job. He's selling the company, and I need to find something to do." So he loaned me some money, and actually consulted with me and said, "Why you love Mustangs and cars? Why don't you open a car business?" And he helped me start Performance Autosport. And he worked for me for, I'm going to say, 5 years or so until he passed away. And I just felt like that since the Shelby name was so big and there were so many guys collecting those, but there were a bunch of old guys at this point, that I could be the guy who could be the Saleen guy and direct that pathway. And nobody wanted the early cars, so we started buying those cars, cleaning them, detailing, putting stuff on them, and then selling them. And we had done so many cars that we sort of became an authority on the cars because people would want to know what the car was worth, and they're afraid to go buy something without knowing what it was worth. And people knew me and trusted me. If you called me and said, hey, Mark, what is this car worth? This is the pictures of it. I'm not going to turn around and buy it out from under you. I could tell you, look, it's a $12,000 car. He wants 14. If you can buy it for 13, it's a good deal. But if you don't want it, let me know, because it might be something we might want to buy. And I think it's that trust network of people knowing that they could call and ask advice and know that I was not going to do something that wasn't kosher, and I would be willing to give them correct information and proper information to help them out. And I think that's why my name was around so much, because I wasn't, and I am trusted. I'm not going to, I don't ever want to go to a car show and be worried I'm going to run into somebody that got done dirty. That's just not what I want to do. I'd rather, and one of the things that drove my dad crazy is when I had my shop, I would buy a car and I'd get it. And he's like, "Why are you spending so much money on this car?" I said, "Because it needs to be fixed, Dad. We'll let the next person worry about it." I'm like, "No, I'd rather make no money on the car and have them buy the right car than me make $500 or $1,000 on it, and then they've got to spend $2,000 on it to fix it up." That's not what I want to do. We never bought salvage cars. We never bought bad title cars. We never bought cars that had mileage discrepancies. None of that stuff. People knew if they bought a car that I'd had my hands on, that it was a good car and it was correct. And that honesty and the way that I did business for all these years definitely paid for itself. Now, did I make as much money as the other guys? No, not at all. But I didn't want to do that. I'd rather work for free than because of my notoriety and my ability of having a business to take advantage of people. It just wasn't the right thing to do.
Right. So if somebody asked you what you did at the time or what Performance Autosport was, what was the elevator pitch? Because I mean, I'm understanding like you're buying and selling cars. Were you working on them as well, modifying cars?
Yes and no. So when I first started the business, it was me in a big warehouse, an open warehouse with no heat, no air conditioning. And I had a kerosene heater to warm everything up. It was 5,000 square feet and it was filled with Mustangs, and it was just me. And then after my dad came on board to help me, he goes, "You need to start working on cars. People will trust you to work on cars." So we moved locations. I hired 2 mechanics and a gentleman to help me do parts and move cars around. And we did that for a few years. We bought a chassis dyno because nobody in our area had a chassis dyno. So I was the first person to have a dyno, and it was so busy for the first 4 or 5 years. Then we got into doing computer tuning. We were a Diablo dealer. And then we got into SCT. And we did that for a few years. Then I moved to a 10,000 square foot location and hired 2 more people. And my dad kept saying, once you get the foundation done, you're going to really start making some money because you get the core business done and then the rest of it's just pure profit. And it just never happened because that business changed. When I first did the business, you'd advertise in Muscle Mustangs and Fast Forwards with a page ad, and you do some other stuff and people would call you. And then when, this wonderful invention that Al Gore claims he invented, the internet, came about, people were price shopping you. And we were selling, let's say $20,000 worth of parts a month. It went to $5,000 a month because I couldn't make any margins on the parts. And we had a shop. We built cars for the SEMA show. We built road race cars. We did all kinds of stuff, but I could just never make any money. The parts were expensive. The margins were little to nothing. And, having a talented person that you can trust working on a car that's going to go 160, 170 miles an hour with your client in it, those guys weren't cheap. And the insurance was ridiculous. And then we got worried that the EPA was going to start cracking down on people doing the tuning because, the eliminating of the emissions controls and, adding fuel and whatever. And I wasn't making any money anyway. And we closed the big shop up. I want to say 13 or 14 is when we closed, Performance Autosport um, as a shop up. I mean, we were featured in Ford Motorsport stuff. We raced all over the eastern part of the country. We won a bunch of stuff. It just never translated into any money for me. My guys made good money because I paid everybody, but I'm in business to make myself a living, and that's when I closed that shop up and went back to just buying and selling specialty cars again. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to get like my timeline straight. I was thinking this was probably, I don't know, I guess, well, somewhere in and around late 90s into like, yeah, the 2010s that all
we
of
o-
this was going on.
we opened the business in 1998. So in March of 98, I had a birthday. My birthday's in March. I got married 2 months. I want to say June is when I got married. Um, Quit my job and opened a business all within a 6-month period. And I mean, yeah, a little bit of pressure, but whatever, that's life. And we did not open up the shop until I want to say it was like 2001 or 2002. I ran the shop for many years, just buying and selling cars, and then we turned it into a full blown mechanic shop, working on stuff. But most of the guys that did what we did, they're gone too. I just happened to be the first one to pull the plug and say, I'm done with this. We actually had somebody come to town right when I was closing up and trying to hire everybody away. And I was like, dude, there's no money in this business. It's fun. And there's you bring a lot of money in, but nothing's left at the end of the month. And they lasted for, I think, 3 or 4 years, and they ended up closing up their shop too. And they were much bigger than me. I mean, huge place,
Right.
6 or 7 mechanics, but it was fun, but there was just no money in it.
What was it like trying to bounce through like the '07, '08 housing debacle? Did that have a pretty big effect on your business?
Well, everything did because Mustang guys generally didn't have any money. Okay. They were regular blue collar working guys, like, good soul, down to earth people. And the problem that we have run into through the many years I've been in business is they don't have a lot of cash because they don't make a lot of money, but they can have credit and they can have equity in their homes. So when the market was crazy and houses were bringing stupid money, and the interest rates were low, they'd come in and spend $15,000 or $20,000 to build their car and put it on an equity line check. And
Right.
they didn't have any money, but they had credit. And it's the same thing that happened to us in the last, 5 or 6 years, is that when the interest rates went through the roof, people stopped buying the $50,000 Saleen Mustang that the bank won't loan on because there's only a couple of specialty lenders, but the guy could write an equity line check and pay 2 or 3% interest and buy his dream car. Well, once the interest rates went to 8, 9%, hell, he was already paying for all the other shit that he bought, jet skis and going on vacation. You know how people are, that they spend way more money than they've got coming in. And so any of the sways in the economy affect the business that we were in. We're not doing Ferraris and Porsches and Lamborghinis. It's not that income bracket of person that it doesn't matter what's going on, they're going to have money. It's either family money, trust money, or they just make a shitload of money themselves. To answer the
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I it's one of the special parts for me about the Mustang, all of the platforms, that they've been built off of is that it's the working man's car. And
It
I love
was.
how,
It was the
yeah,
working man.
that's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not.
kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah, it's
I
not
know,
in.
right?
No, and
And there's this weird like collision of trying to take a working man's car into that category, specifically when you're talking like the Fox bodies, because these things were not
sure.
built to the tightest of tolerances
No,
ever. And here there's guys like me trying to bring them as close to that line of perfection as you possibly can. Then I don't know, I would probably say like the SN cars was probably the start of, hey, let's make a more refined vehicle here.
Mhm.
And from there, it's just kept going and going and going.
Well, definitely.
Because
I
now,
mean,
like you said, you brought up the dark horse, right? Like, well, now
that's
all
what
of
I
a sudden we're in like,
brand new dark horse. I
yeah,
mean,
we're in European territory.
I've owned all kinds of. I mean, I drove a Fox Body Mustang. I'm like I said for the third time. I'm 59. I drove a Fox Body Mustang till I was in my early 30s. That was my daily driver. I used to go down to Florida and buy the police car coupes, and we'd buy 8 or 10 of them at a time and bring them up. And I'd pick the nicest one, clean it up, and I'd drive it for a year and then get rid of it. Um, but the problem with the Fox car, it doesn't matter what you do to it, you can never get it to the level of quietness, of comfort, or any of that stuff as you can with even just the S197 cars. Because the platform is so much stronger, it's so much better, it's so quiet. Don't get me wrong, I love my Fox cars, but I wouldn't get in one and drive it more than 30 or 40 minutes. It's just, you keep trying to put the windows up because of the wind noise and, the creaks and groans and rattles. Now the coupe is much stronger than any of the other cars. And, but if I had to, I couldn't own one of those that wouldn't be a Cars and Coffee car anymore. I mean, we were the largest Griggs racing dealer for many, many years. I had a gentleman that worked for me that was big into them, and we sold their product. It was a good product. It definitely made a big difference on how the cars rode and drove, but it still's not equal to a modern day Mustang, you know, in as far as the ride and drive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very, very true. There are some impressive examples out there, but I mean, people have thrown, well, European sports car money at them to try to get them to that level, right? And
They're better.
I
Don't
mean,
get me
even
wrong. They're fun to drive.
yeah,
They're fast. They're cool cars. But the other thing I try to explain to people is you get in a Fox car and you go to drive it 8 hours like we did down to a car show and something takes a shit on the way there. You're not going to stop at an Advance Auto and pick up a TFI module. They don't have that stuff in stock anymore because it's an old car. And they're just not, they were super dependable cars back in their day, but even if the car doesn't have a lot of miles on it, the parts are still old and stuff can break and you can have, but I mean, even trying to find wheel bearings, I couldn't find FL1A oil filters at one point. Nobody had them. And that oil filter has been used on every V8 Ford, since what, 1963 or
yeah,
four? So, I mean, it's just the biggest problem right now is that the Mustangs are too expensive. All the cars have gotten so crazy in price that our incomes haven't gone up. And to equal that, and people's justification, well, everything costs this much money, and everything, you look at a brand new, Tahoe or an Expedition, it's $100,000. Well, the manufacturers are going to still sell them for $100,000 unless people stop buying them. And people are leveraging themselves beyond belief to buy a depreciating asset and buy this car that it's different if you're not going to drive it much and it'll hold its value more, but you're putting a soccer mom in $100,000 Ford Expedition or a Tahoe, and she puts 25,000 miles on it in 2 years or 3 years, and you go to sell it and you're upside down in it because they've had to extend the financing so long so they can afford the payment to be able to pay for junior soccer camp and swimming lessons and all the other bullshit you got to have when you have kids, that they can't make a $1,300 a month payment. They want it to be $900. Well, to make it $900, you have to finance it for 7 years. And the vehicle's not going to last 7 years. So that's the biggest problem right now. And it's sooner than later, that bubble is just going to go boom. And the banks are going to be stuck with a bunch of shit that people owe way too much money on, and they're not going to be able to get rid of. I think that's coming.
yeah, scary shit.
Yeah.
So, okay, 13, 14-ish, you decide you're going to wind up at least the daily workings of the current business, and you're just going to go into business for yourself and flip cars for a little bit?
Well, I've always been in business by myself, but I was going to get rid of the employee and go back to just buying and selling cars, because what would happen was that we would have a great month buying and selling cars, and the shop would lose its ass on something, and the profit from that end of the business had to get put into the other end of the business, so we ended up not making any money at all. And it was stupid stuff like putting a transmission in a new Corvette and, hitting the pilot bearing, and you don't know till you get it back together again. And now all of a sudden the customer picked the car up and 2 weeks later it's making a horrible noise. Well, the technician isn't going to want to do the work for free. The customer shouldn't pay for it, so the shop eats it, even though it's a high performance deal. You can't afford to screw the customer in that sense and tell them, oh, by the way, tough shit, it's going to be another $2,600 to figure out what we did wrong. It doesn't work that way. That's why we couldn't make any money, because I couldn't tell the customer, hey, buddy, sorry, it's high performance stuff. I don't know what to tell you. There's no warranty. And other shops would do that, but then they lose a customer. So it was stuff like that that just, when things went south, there wasn't enough money on the good side to make up for the bad side. That's the problem. So I went back to work buying and selling cars myself. And then we did that for a few years. And then unfortunately, the president, Biden, got in. And actually, let me back up. Afterwards, when Trump was in, it started picking up again after COVID. When COVID hit, we literally sat there for a year with nothing to do because nobody wanted to touch a car. Nobody wanted to get in a car. We didn't know how this, mystery, virus was transmitted. So I sat here for a year and played on my computer and goofed off and talked to my friends. And then, excuse me, once the COVID money started rolling in, it was like, crack, and people were buying everything they could buy. And business took off like a rocket ship. That's when the prices of the cars all went through the roof because the supply was less than the demand. And then Biden got in. For the first, 8 months that Biden was in, we were riding on Trump's coattails, and business was okay. And then as soon as Biden's policy started kicking in and the interest rates went up, everything just stopped. It was like the phone got disconnected. It was amazing how quickly things stopped.
Wow.
So that's when I went and I had to look for another avenue to make money, and I was too fat for OnlyFans. And, I couldn't act in the adult film business anymore because I'm too old, and I had to do something. What am I going to do? So, as you know, the audience doesn't know, we bought dry ice equipment to do dry ice cleaning because I had to think about something that I could do that I wasn't worried about another guy down the street going and buying a buffer and going to work against me. I needed to spend enough money that it was cost prohibitive for somebody to want to do the same thing because the market was too small, let's just say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got on that.
Right. Okay. Maybe before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've had enough time to reflect upon all this now, back in the heydays of Performance Autosport, what would or could you have done different, do you think, to keep things going? Was it a growth thing, do you think, that
no, it was the internet
hurt this?
It was totally the internet. If we hadn't had the internet, which was great for some things, but when we could sell a Diablo handheld programmer for, let's say $350, and we were the only local person that could sell it, the guys would come in and buy it. We'd make $50 on a unit. Well, now all of a sudden they can get on the internet, get it from one of these guys that's literally running a store out of his garage of his house for $25 less than we could sell it for because he doesn't have any overhead. And it just killed us because I was making enough money on parts to pay for one of the employees' salaries for the entire year. And then he was doing something else to generate more money. So I don't necessarily think it was anything that we could have done different. I think we were just, the timing was wrong. We were, if it hadn't been for because before the internet, we were killing it. And then the internet came about, and then people's attitudes changed. And they didn't want to pay retail for anything anymore. Everybody wanted a deal, and people would come to our shop to talk to us about products and parts, and then order it from some mail order person or order it on the internet and get it in. And we were basically the source of information. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a gentleman who came in. We were racing for Bear at one point. We had a team that sponsored us, and we were selling Bear brakes. And this guy comes into the shop, and he spent about 3 hours with one of my guys, and he goes through everything about what brakes he needed for the wheels, the offset, everything else. And the guy disappears. Then he called back a couple of weeks later and asked the same sales guy a question, and didn't think any of it because a lot of people come in shock. And about a month after that, he shows up with the car, And I happened to be there on a Saturday. Well, I worked every Saturday, but my guys weren't there. I walked out. I'm like, hey, aren't you the guy that we talked to about brakes? He goes, man, you guys are definitely it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the brakes are great. I was like, I don't remember seeing it come through the shop. Did you not get them through us? And he was like, oh, no, 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 no. So-and-so had them on sale for $300 less than you guys have them. And I bought them from them, and I didn't have to pay shipping and no sales tax. Okay. And I said, well,
Wow.
who put them on? And he goes, oh, my buddy works for the Toyota dealership, and we just put them on in the bay one Saturday night. But he goes, I got to tell you, if I'd ordered what they told me to order, and I don't want to name the name of the guys that were selling it, it would have been wrong. But your guys knew exactly what to buy because of my wheels, and we measured everything, and everything was perfect and it fit. I would have been screwed if we had bought the other stuff. He goes, that's why I need to talk to you about exhaust. I'm like, what? And he goes, what mufflers sound the best? I was like, you got YouTube, don't you? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, why don't you listen to some muffler clips on YouTube? And he's like, you're not willing to help me? I said, dude, this isn't 1-800 free advice. You see this building, these employees, I've got to pay all these people. Yeah, but you guys know what you're doing. None of these other guys do. And I said, okay, what do you do for a living? He goes, I'm a real estate agent. I said, well, how would you like it if people could get and knock on the door and buy the house directly from those people and knock you out of your commission? He's like, well, that's totally different. I'm like, how is that different? And I said, you just screwed up. Well, it was only $300. And I said, yeah, but $300 here, $300 there, it all adds up. And that was one of the many knocks on the head that said, this is only going to get worse. And, there was just, he's like, well, yeah, but don't you work for Bear? And I said, just because they sell something in my area doesn't mean I get a check from that. I didn't make any money on your stuff, and they don't pay me every month. And, it was one of many things that if you say that we did anything wrong or anything was wrong, that just the timing was wrong. The business evolved. It's like asking the guy that spent in Charlottesville $1 billion to build a plant that I used to take care of some of their equipment there that did compact discs. Then all of a sudden he woke up one morning and everybody's using flash drives, and he's fucked because he's got $1 billion plant that his shit's going to be obsolete in 2 or 3 years. So, what did the Marines say? Improvise. Now I'm having a brain fart. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. And that's what we did. And there was just a knock on the door that said, it's time to get rid of the shop while we still have some money in our pocket and we can go out on top. And that's when I closed up the shop. Yeah.
Holy shit. I mean, it's amazing to hear that story and think that guy is looking you dead in the eye and he is not reading the tea leaves at all. What's the problem here? Like,
I was ready to
are you on drugs?
And I'm like, are you serious? And then to come back again and ask for more advice because he knew we were right and we knew what we were doing. But, he wanted to save $25 on something. And we would have people that would bring us parts because we were a MagnaFlow dealer. We tried to sell this guy an X pipe for his Mach 1 or whatever it was, a Cobra. And he's like, oh, and he looked at it. And he's like, well, I'll let you know. And about, I don't know, a week later, he comes back and he said, hey, man, can you swap this out for me? And I'm like, what? And he goes, I bought this X pipe and it's clogged. I put it on the car won't run. And I'm like, all right, well, where's your ticket where you bought it? He's like, oh, I ordered it from so-and-so online. I'm like, okay. And he goes, you won't swap it out for one of yours? I said, so you want me to take something that's hanging on the wall over there that's inventory that I've paid for and you didn't buy it from me? Well, you're a MagnaFlow dealer. I'm like, I'm not MagnaFlow. I said, call the people you got it from. He goes, well, they won't return my phone call. And I said, hey, it looks like you got fucked then. If you bought it from me, we would have taken the one off the wall. I would have put it on your car for free. I would have sent the other one back for warranty. But since you tried to save whatever it was, $50, now you're stuck with a pipe that doesn't work. And he left furious, like I'd done something wrong. And I'm like going, Lord, what in the world is going on with people? I would never walk into, a restaurant and say, hey, this is terrible. Where'd you get it from? Well, I got it from the other restaurant down the way, but you're a restaurant too. You should swap this out for something else. It doesn't work that way, It just shit like that it was so aggravating when you don't want to get up and go to work in the morning because you don't know what kind of fucked up shit's going to walk in your door that you're supposed to correct that isn't your fault. It's just not fun anymore, you know? So
Yeah.
it would happen all
Where
the
was
time.
it? Like where was the business located, Mark?
We were in the heart of Richmond, Virginia, is where we were. We were an industrial complex,
Okay.
and we were in a couple different locations. One of the locations was out in the country a little bit that people had to drive to, but it was a small place where we first did the dyno. But then we got super busy, and I listened to a lot of people's advice and said, you need to grow the business. And I'd hire 2 extra people. And we moved to a 10,000 from, I think, 5,000 square foot. We moved to a 10,000 square foot facility that had a showroom for cars. It was really a cool place, but the rent was $6,700 a month. And when I closed in 2014, it was $38,000 a month to run the shop. Okay. And that didn't include
Just overhead.
dime. That's what it took not to lose money for the month was $38,000 between insurance, paying the employees, rent, power bill. I mean, it was ludicrous, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, hey?
Yeah. Tell me about it. And I wasn't taking a paycheck. My wife was making really good money. I'm trying to build this business and we're living off her income. And,
Right.
it was just nuts. I was actually just flabbergasted that much money came through the business, but there wasn't any profit in it because if there isn't a huge profit margin in the parts and there's not a huge profit margin in the installation, there's really not a lot left at the end after you pay everybody. And that was the problem. So I can never figure out how to make it work. And obviously I wasn't the only one. I think there's a place down in I don't know where Indiana that's still open. Like I said, I'm not going to mention names, but most of the big players that were building stuff, and there's one guy in New Jersey left. There really isn't any other, places that you consider to be national or big names that are around anymore. They're all closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm asking these questions from a bit of a selfish standpoint, right? Because here I sit in my shop. Now, I toy around with the idea. Actually, most or part of my visa requirements are that I grow and I hire American employees, and that's a whole thing in itself. But I'm trying to approach this in a cautious manner because I haven't ran the math on all this, but I can see how things could get out from underneath you quite quickly, right? When you've got, well, hell, maybe it's just a slow month or whatever, and you got 6 mouths to feed that you're responsible for. But for whatever reason, whether it's political bullshit or it's just a sign of the times, or hell, maybe the phone just ain't ringing and you've got this lull in business. How do you handle that?
Well, I was lucky,
but like right now, I run myself ragged as a one-man band until I'm going to be like halfway to the hospital, and then I'll go, okay, it's time to hire somebody. Is sort of the way I'm looking at it, but that's not ideal either.
No, the problem is that you really can't hire more than one other person, and because you need to double yourself. The guys that have been successful with doing restoration shops, with doing some other stuff, have fewer employees, but they bill more hours and you're paying yourself as you would pay your employee because you're doing the work. You can't sit up front with your feet on your desk. You need to actually be doing the work. And that's that's what I'm doing now. And I'm not paying somebody to do something that I can do. But it's very difficult, and you have to have reason most small businesses fail is they don't have the resources, and you need to have enough money put away to run your business for a year without making a dime. And most people can't do that. But that's the biggest problem is that you get a slow month. The only way we made it through the years is that I bought a bunch of cars and put them away as collector pieces. And when things, turned south, I'd have to sell a car. I had one employee go, "Where did your car go? That was their Saleen, the red Saleen." And I was like, "I sold it." He's like, "Why'd you sell that? You love that car." I said, "You guys wanted to eat, right?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "We have $120,000 in receivables on the books and nobody will pay their fucking bills. And you guys still want to get paid. Do you want?" And the employees didn't understand. I said, "You're getting paid before I'm getting paid. I'm paying the vendor who sold us the parts before I'm getting paid. I'm paying insurance, I'm paying rent, I'm paying everything. I said, when you're a small business owner, you're really a bank too. And he just looked at me and he goes, I never thought about it that way. And I'm like I had one guy come to me and he
Yeah.
goes, oh, boss, you're going to be upset with me this week. And I'm like, why? He goes, I've got 90 billable hours. And I said, why would I be upset? He goes, well, you got to pay me 90 hours. It means that I made money too if you made money at 90 hours. They didn't understand how that stuff worked. And that's the hardest part about having the business is, is the cash flow. I remember many a times the guy that was my service manager, I go to him and said, look, there's not enough money in the bank account. And I said, you need to call so and get them to start paying some more money on their bill, even though they left a deposit. They've had us do more work if you guys want to get paid this week, because I don't have enough money to pay you and pay the rent. And somehow miraculously there'd be people that would call in with their credit cards, and that's the other thing. Everybody wants to use credit cards, today. And we were paying, we pay
The percentages.
$10,000 a month in credit card fees, that we weren't making. And, if people would write a check, that was great. But everybody wanted to put, you put a $20,000 job on a credit card, you're paying 3% of that to the credit card company. You might not make 3% on the whole job because they didn't have any money.
No, it's true. Yeah, you could be upside down in it in the first place. I know we're starting to appreciate that a lot more right now. Even like the Venmos and all this shit, right? Like they're all taking a cut. And you're going like, if you're billing something that's a significant amount of money, I mean, that percentage starts to sting after a while. And it's funny too, because I mean, this is like anything, right? Like shit rolls downhill. So I'm like, well, is this a cost that you can put back on the customer? And I mean, it's kind of like anything, like all of us as taxpayers, we're the end of the line for all these other things that get implemented at a high level. Just like in this case, the customer's the tail end of the line and they're the poor bastard that has to pay this 2-3%. And it's like, well, I just got my head around how much I owed you, but now it's going to be another $150 or $200. It's like, I don't know who's supposed to pay for this. Like we're all looking at each other going like, fuck, it's just a transfer of money. I don't know why it's so expensive.
Yeah. They don't have the extra money. That $200 is part of a paycheck, and they don't have the extra 200. Some of them did. Don't get me wrong. We had a client, we built a car for SEMA, and he goes, what do you need for a deposit? I said, how about 20 grand? And he pulls out his American Express. It goes through the machine, and usually you get a phone call that says, what's going on? It went beep, beep, and it took the money. I'm like, holy shit, this dude's got some bank. But most of the people, they didn't have the resources, and that extra 3% you're eating up. And then not to mention the fact that if it takes months to get the car done, your money is out there for 2 or 3, 4, 6 months, and you're not collecting on it. That's money that's gone. You either have to borrow money to refill that money again, or you go without something. I couldn't go to the auction and buy a car to resell because I had $150,000 tied up in shop stuff. And, the next money coming in would finance the last money. And there was never any real money there. You were just keep feeding the machine. And when you get to the end of the road, you're like, at the end of the year, you're like, we did $1.2 million, but we didn't make any money. And, I think our best year was $1.5 million. I lost $70,000 because of all the bullshit that happened in our shop. That, we did a lightning motor for one of the kids from Qatar, and the guy started it and it bent the valves and bent a rod in it because the Ford Racing cylinder heads that we got, we put the motor together, they were too tight. They were seized up. Well, there was no way to tell that. It wasn't the tech's fault. It wasn't. And it's all high performance shit. So there's no warranty. I can't go back to Ford Racing and go, you owe us money. And I think it was like $8,000 or $9,000 by the time we figured out what was going on with it and fixed the guy's truck. Well, I can't call him and go, hey, Nasser, you owe us for this motor that took a shit when you haven't even seen the truck. And we started it. So the shop eats it. And that kind of stuff just cost a fortune, Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm probably going to talk you out of your business. Yeah. It's great.
Well, no, I know there's a lot of, yeah, there are a lot of people that listen to this that want to, I mean, we get kind of heady on some conversations, right? And, the whole, what would you do with your life if somebody said to you, hey, you never have to worry about paying rent or paying the power bill anymore? Like, here is the lottery winnings, whatever that amount of money it is that you would consider to be significant. What are you going to do now that all that's out of your way? What are you going to do tomorrow? And a lot of people that listen to this, because it's kind of centered around cars, goes like, well, it's going to be something in cars. But hearing the ugly side of just doing something about cars, because it's real easy to look at all the glitzy glammy shit. You know, like you could sit here and go, yeah, like I had hundreds of cars in the warehouse and it was great to go out there and wipe them with dirty diapers and everything else. But this is the darker side of owning your own business too.
Mhm.
So it's good for everyone to hear, right?
You know, and a lot of people can't handle that. I mean, you said it earlier in our conversation. When you realize that you're the guy that's responsible for 6 people being able to pay their bills, okay? You talk about pressure. You have no idea what it's like when, you know, they've got little kids and they're getting ready, they got to go to school and they need money to buy stuff with. And if they don't get paid and they don't have the work coming in the door to generate the money, you feel responsible, even though it's not your fault that nobody needed their car fixed or wanted to buy anything in November because everybody was, you know, saving money for Christmas. These poor guys, you know, there's like one guy came to me one year and goes, boss, can I borrow some money? And I'm like, well, you had a great month last month. He goes, yeah, but this month isn't looking good. And I don't have any money to buy my kids Christmas gifts. And I mean, I was crushed. I'm like, what do you do? You know? And his kids have been in the shop before. They're little kids. So, you know, I reach into my personal savings account and I gave him a couple $1,000 so that he could pay, you know, pay his rent on his house because he didn't own a house, pay for his, you know, kids' Christmas or whatever else. And, you know, then, you know, my wife is like, well, what are we going to do? Whatever. I was like, well, I don't have any extra money right now. And like, what do you mean? Well, I gave it to so-and-so. What do you mean? You know, and I said, and I explained, and then she's like, okay, I understand. But, you know, then we went without, and it took him, God, probably took him a year to pay me back, you know, $200 a paycheck or whatever it is to pay me back. And, you know, of course, I pissed the money away because what's $200? It's different if you're getting $2,000, you put it in your savings account, you're getting $200, $200 here, $200 there, the money was gone. But it's that kind of stuff that people don't understand when you own a business, the pressures that you're under. And there's a lot of guys that would have been like, hey, screw you made money last month. You know, I'm not worried about it. But especially in where we were, there weren't a lot of talented people. So it wasn't like there were 50 people knocking at my door to come to work for me that were qualified. A lot of people wanted to come to work for us, but they didn't have the qualifications. So it's tough. It's really, really tough. And you got to get up in the morning and go to work. I worked every Saturday because customers were going to drop the cars off either Saturdays or Sundays because they weren't working or picked their car up. So I worked 7 days a week for, I don't know, 12 years. And none of the employees wanted to come in on the weekend. So I was going there. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
wild.
It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we got featured in a ton of magazines and, you know, we'd go to SEMA every year and people knew who we were. We built some really, really cool shit. And, you know, we did a lot of stuff that was great. It's just, it never turned into any money. I mean, we built a, American Iron race car out of the first 5.0, you know, mod 5.0 motor, you know, a 2011. And, the guys at Ford Racing, why didn't you buy one of our chassis and do whatever, or body in white? I'm like, because we built it before there was a body in white. We literally went to the dealership, bought a brand new Mustang, put 900 miles on it to make sure it was okay, and then tore it apart and built a championship winning American Iron race car out of it. And we ran it for, I think, 3 or 4 years.
No shit.
And then we sold it to another group of guys and they ran it too. Yeah. So we had some really talented people.
Wow.
Yeah, we did some cool shit, but it never turned into any money, you know?
Okay, so here's the $1 million question with it all. Would you do it again? Did you have enough fun at it that you'd do it again?
No.
Mm-mm. Been there, done that?
What do they say? Hindsight is 20/20. I had a lot of fun. Would I do it again? If I did it again, I'm gonna change the angle here. I would have done a lot of things differently, but I don't know if the end result would have been any different. Okay. Because like I said before, the time that we entered into it, the internet screwed everything up. And there wasn't the ability to make the money that we should have made for the amount of money that was coming in the door. But I had a ton of fun, and we had a race team. We ran Mid Ohio. We ran a bunch of different tracks. I mean, we were featured in all kinds of stuff. It was cool, but we never had people come to us to build cars, because a lot of the Mustang guys were like, oh, they're not going to build us something equal to what they're running, because then we'd run with them. And it was like, we'll do exactly what we've done. The talent is the driver. We had a great driver. And, but it wasn't me. I just paid all the fucking bills. But I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I've had a bad life. I've gotten to do some really, really cool shit. I've gotten to meet some really, really neat people. I just wish I would have been able to make a little bit more money. That's all, and not piss it away on race teams and stuff like that, if that answers the question.
Yeah, I know. Cause I talk about this quite often, like, I guess with respect to making sure whatever it is that you're doing and pouring 7 days a week and 12, 15, 18 hours a day, whatever, you got to make sure that you love what you're doing. And the money thing is obviously a necessary evil because, well, everybody that you got to pay, rent, mortgage. Yeah.
People always say the money comes with it. If you do something that you love, then you're not working and the money will come with it. That's half true. I mean, what we did was fun and I loved doing it at the time. But in hindsight, I could have sold houses or done something else and made a fortune and, would have a lot more money put away for a rainy day. But, hindsight's 2020. But like I said, we did a lot of shit that people would be so envious of, the places that we went, the people that we met, the people we hung out with that other people have never done. And, or never would be able to do. But, it is what it is. I mean, I still work 12-hour days. I'm at the shop tonight. I'll be back at the shop tomorrow morning at 7. I'm going to work all day tomorrow and probably 3/4 of the day on Sunday and then get back up and be here Monday again. It's just what it takes.
Right.
Problem is
so let's.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let's talk about the new shop, or I guess whatever you're doing in the new shop now. So the dry ice thing. So because I have, I don't know if I've ever talked about it on here or not, but it crossed my mind when we were applying for our visa that I thought I'm going to have to sell this business idea to immigration. And if I just tell them, yeah, I like working on Fox Body Mustangs. Well, the first question that's probably going to come out of their mouth is, what the fuck is a Fox Body Mustang? And secondly, they're going like, how are you ever going to make any money at that? Because this is something we're not going to let you come in here and just suck on the tit to the United States. Like, you need to produce and you need to prove to us that you're going to be able to sustain a life down here. So I was like, well, I wonder if I could, I already had an interest in the dry ice thing because I think it's my OCD clean freak nature, and seeing some shit online about it and watching guys blast undercoating and clean an engine and do all this stuff. I was like, yeah, I think I could maybe get behind this, and maybe, just maybe, it'd be easier for me to sell this idea to immigration as to this is going to be a big component of our business type thing. All that to say, it's worked out where I didn't do that. And I did talk to a few people that had gotten into dry ice, and a lot of them said, I got into it through sheer ignorance and it was probably a terrible idea. I didn't realize how deep this rabbit hole should go. So maybe tell me your experience with it, because I got a funny feeling, well, if you're still doing it and doing okay at it, then you've probably been through a lot of this shit.
Well, I mean, the big thing is that we looked at it many, many years ago, because I'm an OCD person also. And I like, stuff to be clean. I like things to be organized, unlike the look on my desk back over here, but that's just because there's a bunch of shit in here right now. I always detailed cars when I was a kid, and we offered that service at our other shop, and, ceramic coating and whatever. And I knew how to do it all. And there's a lot of people that were like, if you're happy with it, then I'm going to be happy with it. So I would rather you do it, and I know it's going to be done to my satisfaction. And after COVID was over, and we started trying to figure out, well, what am I going to be able to do, because the interest rates aren't down. It's going to take a while for things to ramp back up again, and for people to decide it's okay to start buying cars. The other problem that we had was the COVID price explosion, and we still are dealing with that. That the guy's car that might have been worth $35,000 before COVID, that people were paying 60 for, in his mind, it's still a $60,000 car. And it wasn't. It was a $40,000 car, $45,000 car, because things had cooled off. And, you tell somebody, do you own stock? Yeah. Well, if you had Procter and Gamble and it was 800 and you didn't sell it and now it's 400, you can't ask 800 for it. It's worth 400 now. And some of them understood, some of them didn't. Well, I had an offer for, hey, you didn't take the offer. I don't know what to tell you, bud, but your car's worth 45 grand. I'll give you 38 because I've got to ship it, put tires on it, da, da, da. Anyway, I just knew that wasn't going to be viable for a while. And I looked into the dry ice stuff because I wanted to do something that I knew, like we said earlier, that the guy down the street couldn't go and buy the same equipment that I have and go into business against me for little to nothing. The dry ice machine, I did a lot of research on machines. The machine itself is $50,000 just for the machine, but you need $30,000 worth of air to run it. So you have $80,000 in just equipment. And then you have to have a designated shop, because one of the things that I didn't even realize, even after I did the demos, is how much dirt it creates. I had to buy a $4,500 floor scrubber to try to keep the shop somewhat clean. And it's like you were talking about, how do you tell the client he's got to pay the 3% for the credit card fee? How do I tell my client, by the way, your 69 Mach 1 that had 50-year-old undercoating on it has destroyed my fucking shop, and it's going to take 5 hours to clean it. I need $300 or $400. You don't. It's like telling somebody, oh, by the way, you want the restaurant clean when you come in here to eat, you have to pay us an extra fee. It's part of the game. So you have to keep the shop clean. Yep. And you get a guy with a $500,000 car coming in here, it can't be dirty, because they're not going to want their car in a shop that there's grease all over the place and footprints. And so you got to constantly clean. That's the thing I didn't know. And how dirty you get, covered. I mean, just head to toe. And Ben?
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, they're coming to you to clean that shit off of their vehicle, right? So, like, I know the videos that I think everybody knows and loves and has seen is, okay, we're knocking off like a little bit of dry, whatever it is, undercoating, dust, dirt, road grime shit, whatever. But yeah, you get into the ball joint area, right? And you're blasting off 50 years of grease, and that's fucking hitting your wall. Or whatever else, wherever else it decides it wants to go, your face.
In my shop, on one of the walls. Yeah. It's
right.
They don't understand that.
And actually,
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I've kind of pictured in my mind, this was back when I was looking into it, I was like, okay, this has to be done, or at least I thought it had to be done on like a 2-post hoist, ideally, because you need access. If you're doing the underside of a car, you need the most access to the car as possible. And then I was like, how could you rig up almost like a welding screen, something like that ran on shower curtain rings or something that you could just pull around yourself and contain the environment?
It doesn't work. You need a dedicated shop that can get dirty, because some of the stuff is as fine as talcum powder and it goes everywhere. Okay. Because I have people come in and goes, what if you did the old welding curtain thing and you wrap this up? And I said, okay, let's say we do that. Now you're going to have a fucking tornado in there when all this dirt is coming off, because it can't go anywhere. It's trapped 3 feet around the entire car. Right. And now you have a fucking sandstorm in there and you can't see anything. Okay. And then where's it going to go? It gets on the car on top. And that's the other thing people don't understand. When you're done, it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to properly clean the car. Now, you will see some guys doing dry ice and they've got tape all around the whole car with plastic on it. Well, they've obviously never pulled paint off of a car with tape. And if you've ever done that, you would never take a 50-year-old car and put fucking masking tape all over the thing and trying to cover the dirt up. Because when you peel it off and you get a big old spot that comes off the fender like that, you're like, oh shit. So we power wash the cars when we're done. Sometimes I have to wax them, because the undercoating, if it's sticky, it then goes on top of the car and it's all stuck all over the car. And you can't give a client a car back that's all dirty. They're paying you to clean it. Yeah. But that people, they have no fathomable understanding the amount of dust and dirt. And I think that's why, honestly, a lot of people that I see have equipment for sale, because they've gotten into it and they think it's going to be easy. They think it's going to be all glamorous, and it's not. And I mean, I had a gentleman bring me $1 million 65 Shelby um, at the beginning of the summer, and it was me that did it. I don't have any employees. It's me and 3 dogs. I would not trust some 18-year-old kid that I've hired to get underneath a $500,000 or $1 million car, $200,000 car, because if they hit the wrong thing, you can damage stuff with dry ice. It's not perfect. So there's a
Yeah.
learning. I've been doing it for 3 years, and it's been a huge learning experience. Huge. Would I do it again? I would definitely do it again, but I would design my shop differently to try to make the dirt a little bit better. But it's dirty. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to spend the entire day cleaning up the shop because it's that nasty. But
Right.
it's part of the game.
Yeah, see, that was kind of one of my yeah, that was kind of one of my thoughts out of ignorance is I was like, yeah, cuz part of my requirements is hiring people. I'm like, damn, I could probably hire somebody that barely could fog a mirror and just cut them loose on cars, dry ice and but yeah, hearing the realistic side of that,
I
yeah,
mean,
not so much. And to your point, it's the guy with the $1 million car that's going to want to spend $1,500 cleaning up the underside of his car. It's not the guy with the, Toyota Tercel that's going to spend $1,500 getting the road grime off of her, right? So, yeah, you're dealing with high-end cars, high-end clients, and you're going to cut loose Jimbo on her? Probably not.
well, that's one of the reasons that people send cars to me because they know I'm doing it, and I've done cars all over the East Coast in the middle of the country because I don't have a kid working for me. And, my average car that's in here is $100,000 plus. And the jobs run anywhere between
Right.
$1,500 and $3,500. We did a body of a 63 split window Fuelie Corvette, just the body on a wood jig. That was about $6,000 to do that car because you say, why would it have undercoat on it? It's fiberglass. Well, somebody in 1962 and a half or 63 decided at the dealership that it needed to be undercoated because remember, it had a full frame in it. And it had, I waited it was like 52 pounds of shit we took off that car. And with fiberglass,
Wow.
you have to go really, really slow because if the pellets are too big or it's too strong, it'll eat into the fiberglass. So it has to be hard enough to remove the undercoat, but then you have to know when to stop before you damage the fiberglass. And I had about 30 hours in that car, and it took 4 or 5
Wow.
days to clean the shop up when we were done. But, that car was brought to me by a specialist, and then after that, he's the guy that brought me the 65 Shelby. And a week before that, one of those cars had sold for $1 million, and this was a 22,000-mile
Yeah.
original paint car, and I needed to uncover all the markings underneath it and not screw anything up on it. And, they trust me to do it because they know how specific I am with doing stuff and I'm anal about making sure things are right. But
Right.
I think that
Yeah,
that's
because
part of it's my reputation based from everything else that I've done.
yeah. So if I'm understanding this correctly, Mark, like you can dial that machine up and down because you're going to deal with like whatever size pellet it is that you're starting with for your raw material that you're going to be using. And then your machine, you can dial it up and down almost, I guess, to put it into the mind's eye perspective, like a grit. So you can keep that pellet larger or you can, I guess, crush it down. Essentially, the machine must break it down, and then you can make it finer. Is that right?
So the dry ice is they call it rice because it's like the size of a piece of rice. It's a 1/8 is what they call the size. And the machine you can dial down to like point 0.5 all the way up to 3 millimeters. And if you're doing something that's really nasty, you're cranking it at 3 millimeters. But the part of the problem is that every car is different. So you play with an area, you adjust the volume of ice, the pressure, and then the size. There's 3 things that you can change. Plus, the closer you get to it with the nozzle, the more pressure you have, farther away, less pressure. You got to hit stuff at certain angles to make it come off the car easier. There's a lot of technique to do it.
Mm,
Yeah, like I said, it's taken me 3 years to really feel comfortable using everything and knowing I'm not going to screw anything up. I mean, you hit a wire loom or a harness or a decal with too much pressure and too much ice, it'll go right through it. And
really?
especially an old
Wow.
car. I mean, how old Fox body cars have you grabbed the wiring harness and all the insulation falls off of it? You're holding a handful of copper wire. Um, if you hit things with the ice, it'll take the insulation right off a wire. And so you gotta. That's why you can't have like an 18, 19-year-old kid. Not that there aren't some of them that know how to do it. Um, but you hit the nail on the head. The guy that's paying to have, or the lady, I should be correct, that's having this done is they have money. I mean, they're not interested in a cheap job. They've got a nice car, and it's just you can't afford to risk it. I mean, if I screw the paint up on somebody's $300,000 Porsche, I'm out of business. You know,
Yep.
it's a little
Yeah.
bit a little nerve wracking, but it's okay. I mean, I've learned how to do it.
So where do you find like most of your business comes from? Is it that restoration style work? And the reason I ask this is because when I first thought about dry ice, this was back when I was in Canada, there was a road track not too far from us. They called it Area 52. Lots of fancy cars went out there.
Mhm.
I mean, there was guys with like GT3s that came off the lot and they went and got all the glass taken out of them, like people that weren't afraid to spend money just to go out on the weekend and have fun. And I thought, shit, this could be like a neat deal a couple times a year. Maybe it's like post race season and everybody's wants to clean their car up before it goes on the lift for the winter or whatever. So I guess I'm just trying to find out, like, where do you find where most of your business comes from? Like, would it be cars like that, or would it be more that
It is, but
restoration
it's
style?
or the restoration guys will bring you stuff because they've taken the car apart and they want to get all the undercoat off of it so they can redo the car. And the gentleman who brought me the 65 Shelby and the 63 split window was restoring those cars, frame off restorations. And the car's worth
Okay.
a lot more with the original red oxide primer underneath the 65 Shelby and the original correct color of the fiberglass on the Corvette when he put it back together again. And he had no way to do it. The dry ice is the only way to remove that off the bottom of the car and not destroy the car. But most of my clients are, I mean, I'll be honest with you, is word of mouth, or people will also Google dry ice cleaning because it's sort of become a thing and they find me. I've got one collector that's about 3 hours away from me. Um, and he has a humongous car collection, and he started looking at all the dry stuff, and he flew his private plane in. I'm sorry, he was going to fly his private plane and ended up being in Richmond and came in to see me, and he came to look at the building and meet me and everything else. And he's like, I could do this, right? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I knew the cars that he had and millions and millions of dollars worth of cars. And he said, I figured it was going to cost me $300,000 to set up the same thing that you're doing here. He said, but I don't want to hire an employee to do this. And I don't want to ruin a building. He said, look at all the mess in here. And I'd cleaned the shop up and up in the air conditioning and all on the top. I mean, there's shit you can't get to. And he's like, do you rent this building? Own this building? I'm like, no, I'm renting it. He goes, yeah, I would have to buy a building and know I'm going to have to knock it down or renovate it when we're done. He goes, I'd rather spend 300 grand with you doing my cars. I'm like, deal. So he sends me,
Yeah.
I do a group of cars for him and he sends me more of them. And then other people, I've got a client of mine in South Carolina that I've known through the Mustang world. And a lot of the Fox body cars were undercoated and a lot of the cars are worth big money now. And, he's starting to send me cars. I did an 89 LX 5-liter convertible with 69 miles on it. It was a brand new car that was undercoated at the dealer. And, those are the kind of people that are sending me stuff. And a lot of it's just word of mouth. And then, you know, people are actually just doing an internet search for who's doing it. And, I don't have competition that's really anywhere near me. So, and again, it's a matter of trust. They go, oh, Mark will take care of your car. I'm not going to go drive your car. I'm not going to leave it sitting outside. We have 2,500 square feet dedicated to just dry ice and 2,500 square feet dedicated to storage. So the cars won't sit
Okay.
outside. They're not going to get rained on. I don't even drive my own shit. I'm not going to drive anybody else's car. because I'm the guy, if I decided to go drive somebody's GT3, that somebody would hit me in it. So it's like even the thought of the thrill of driving something like that. The quick story, I had a purple GT3 RS here that we were selling for a customer because I've got a dealer's license, obviously. So we buy and sell cars too. And we had short cycled the key so many times that the overflow oil light was on because it's a dry sump system. And he was like, Mark, you got to take it out and drive it. And I'm like, no. And he goes, no, you don't understand. You got to get it out on the interstate, put 10 or 15 miles on it and drive it. And at the time it was $150,000 car. Now it's a $200,000 car. So he said, I said, look, I don't want to drive the car because I'm busy. I don't have time to come there. And I said, well, do me a favor. Shoot me an email that says I have permission to drive your car for this oil situation if God forbid something happens. I said, I know you, I trust you, but if something happens, somebody hits me in the car and then all of a sudden your insurance won't pay for it, I don't want this shit coming back to me. And he's like, no, businessman to businessman, I understand that. And he sent me a quick email saying I give Mark permission to drive my car or whatever. And I put 10 miles on it and I drove it back here. It was like, what was it like? I was like, I'm scared shitless. Like, what do you mean? I was like, it wasn't my car.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
No. And did you get on it? No. What if something happened to it or get a ticket or something? So anyway, I think that's part of the reason that people trust me with their stuff. Plus, I'm so goddamn tired at the end of the day. I don't want to go drive anybody's car anyway. I'm lucky I can drive my own shit home,
Right. So are Porsches the ones that seem to be finding you the most? Because I've talked to some other dry ice guys too, and I'm almost starting to notice a trend. Like it's almost like Porsche folks just want an ultra clean car because they're doing this in a lot of cases to like brand new GT3 RSs.
Well, the problem is that when the cars, especially the 80s and 90s Porsches, were shipped over, the factory sprayed them down with a product called Cosmoline, the same stuff that we used in World War II to put on the M1 Garand rifles before they got shipped over and whatever else. And it's there's a product you spray on it to take it off. It's a wax. And the Porsche dealers were supposed to have gotten paid to take all that off. I worked at a Porsche dealership at one point, and we had all the stuff to take the Cosmoline off. But in the 80s and 90s, the Porsche customer didn't give a shit what the bottom of the car looked like. It wasn't until Bring a Trailer came about in the last 8 or 9 years with photographs of the underside of the car that, other than looking at the car to see if it had rust on it, nobody really paid any attention to what the bottom of the car looked like. So especially the air-cooled Porsches are just nasty underneath. And the people want the car to look nice as on the top as it does on the bottom. And it helps the resale. You go to put that car up for sale and the fender wells look like you can eat off of it and the chassis does. People are not going to think you didn't do the maintenance. You didn't change the oil. So the Porsche guys, obviously they've got money. And they want to have the cars done, and the air-cooled stuff has gone through the stratosphere. I mean, a 993 Porsche for years was a $50,000 or $60,000 car. Your average one's $150 now to $170. One sold on Bring a Trailer about a week and a half ago with 3,100 miles. It did $212,000. So they're not worried about spending $2,500 or $2,600 with me to make the bottom of it look like new. So there's a portion of ours are Porsche guys, a lot of Fox Buddy guys with undercoating. I've got a 1,200 mile McLaren convertible in the shop, 1980. I think it's an 87 or 88 because speed density, and he wants the undercoat taken off of it. And the car came from Nebraska. I think it was Nebraska or Nebraska, and he lives in South Carolina. So he had it shipped directly to me. He bought it on an auction site. I'll get the car right, and then he'll send a trucker. He'll come pick it up with his trucking trailer and take it back to his shop. And he's driving 6-8 hours to have me do a car.
Yeah,
so it makes you feel good.
Undercoat is totally. Undercoat's a funny one for me because this Calypso coupe over my shoulder here got the undercoat treatment, and I mean heavy. Like, I got a wheel well liner out of that thing now, and that wheel well liner is 3 times as thick as the plastic. Like, it was almost like they threw it on with a paintbrush. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, and some of them are bad. I mean, I did one the other day for the same guy, And it looked like, they hired a new kid and said, hey, you need to undercoat it. And he didn't realize that you didn't have to put the whole 55-gallon drum on. You could just spray everything.
Right.
And they got up in the K-member inside all the holes. Thank God they didn't drill a million holes in the doors and the rockers. But I mean, it had undercoat on it. Like somebody was popping off and it was hitting me and it hurt because the chunks were so big. It was like new underneath. It didn't rust at all. And then I did a 93 coupe that actually was on Bring a Trailer. It was a white coupe with red interior that, again, it must have had 40 pounds of undercoating on it. But that's how the dealers made extra money.
Yeah.
They didn't have huge profit margins in the car. So if they could charge you $299 for the undercoat that cost them $99, they made as much money on the undercoat as they made on sometimes on the cars. So, yeah.
Well, that's kind of the funny part with it for me is like, I hate undercoat. Like I think most automotive enthusiasts do, but with the onset of the whole dry ice idea and everything else, and as long as there wasn't moisture that found its way in behind that undercoat, like I'm kind of looking at undercoat like it might have been a really good idea, because there's people like you that can take it off. And I mean, going back to that wheel well liner, I mean, just me manhandling that thing out, anyone that's taken one out knows what kind of a pain in the ass that is. And it's cracking off, and I'm going, holy shit, like this is like a new old stock wheel liner.
Why would somebody undercoat a fucking plastic wheel liner? Every time I get underneath a car, I'm like, I hate to use this word, were retard? Why would you spray that? It's the same thing with the shield, the plastic shield on a gas tank. Why the fuck would you spray that with 5 pounds of undercoating? It's not going to rust. And, it's just, it depends on where the car was. Cars in Canada, were going to rust. Cars in Michigan were going to rust. Cars in Ohio. There are quite a few cars that got saved because of the undercoat. But in Virginia, we don't have rust. I mean, before we got in the days of shipping cars all over the country, if I went to go look at a Mustang up in the country, I never looked for rust. We didn't have that. But yeah, it's aggravating. But I mean, when we built a bunch of race cars and took undercoating out of them, I mean, we take 20 pounds out of a race car. That's a lot of weight. And if it was all undercoat, you didn't sacrifice, the chassis rigidity or, noise or anything. You just took a bunch of weight out of the car. It's kind of crazy. But
yeah,
no,
it is.
It's interesting business. And the before and after pictures, people just go ape shit over. They're just like, wow. And you're right. Some of the stuff underneath, it's almost like the part is NOS, because depending on the undercoat, and I never realized how many different undercoats there are, but there's tons of different stuff, because I've used some stuff that's come off easy. Some stuff is still sticky. Some stuff just turns to powder. But then all of a sudden you're uncovering this stuff, and the cadmium plating on bolts is still brand new. That you can read on the Porsches, you can read the writing on the side of the oil hoses underneath the cars. I mean, I look at it as almost like I'm an archaeologist. I'm uncovering the past, on the bottom of the car. And with some of the older Mustangs, when you do a Shelby or a K-code car, on the passenger side bump where the headlight is, there can be writing on there. There was a D on there, which meant the plant that it came from. One of the Shelbys, there was a bunch of writing on the bottom of the A-arm area that was in yellow paint that was stenciled on the car. It was still there. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's some cool shit. Yeah, definitely.
That is, I know. And it's kind of got that, that mesmerizing feel to it. I mean, anybody that's ever sandblasted anything knows what I'm talking about. Like, you can zone out completely while you're doing it. And I mean, yeah, you're doing this on cool shit, where in a lot of respects, like you say, you could be uncovering a message that some dude wrote on a Friday on a control arm. Like, you don't know. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I got a message back, so she knows I'm not at the strip club again.
Oh,
yeah, no. But yeah,
the warden's checking in.
Yeah, exactly. My ankle bracelet's starting to beep. It's neat because you find stuff and you find different writings, and you find, like, we did a Nissan Z the other day. It was an early 240Z, and it had been Z-barred, and there was all these yellow stencils all underneath the car where there was writing that was, Japanese writing and arrows pointing to stuff and whatever. Like it was some shit they did on the assembly lines. They knew where to put things, and that was all still on the car. I did a 69,
Wow.
428 Super Cobra Jet drag pack Mach 1 4-speed the other day, and I'm blasting on it. And at a corner of my eye, because I'm wearing a full face shield, respirator, 2 filters, headgear, and I still get all dirty. And all of a sudden, at a corner of my eye, I see something like going like this. And I'm like, what the hell? And I look over and it's like, looks like a piece of paper. And I'm like, and I pick it up and it's a section of the build sheet for the car. And I was like, and I was spraying the bottom side of the fender. And usually that stuff is inside the car. Somehow this was in the fender. And then I went back around it again and I noticed on the floor, the rest of it was there. And I picked it up and pieced it together. And it was the actual pick sheet for the car that found its way out with the air pressure of me blasting stuff. And I called the guy. He's like, are you kidding me? I said, you can't really read it. He goes, there's a guy that restores those that he's got chemicals he can put on it so you can read it. He goes, oh my God, that's incredible. Because it adds to the value of the car, But yeah, we found
100%.
we found some pretty cool stuff. Some of the Saleens, you uncover the secret stamp number where they'd stamp the car so you can tell it's a real car and stuff like that. So there's some cool stuff.
Well, interesting. I've never heard anything about that. There's a secret stamping, or can be?
No, there should be.
Oh, neat.
Whether the guys were working that day and they were paying attention on. It's a 3-digit. It's usually the year and then the number of the car stamped on the car in an area where it's protected if it gets in an accident. And a lot of times. Like if we've got an SSC car we're getting ready to list for sale, and I'll show a picture of that stamping because that way it proves that the car's what it is. So it's on one of the frame rails.
Okay.
Yeah. And
very
it's just,
cool.
It's just a stamp. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The kind of like just the old school punch, right? Hammer and a punch and 3 digits. Yep. Neat. Okay. While we're back on the Saleen topic, what is, or do you have a favorite generation of the Saleen cars, and which is it?
It's the Fox body without a doubt. I mean, I love the Fox body cars.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I love them. I just don't want to drive them anymore. Because they don't drive like a modern car. I mean, like I said, up until I was 30, I drove a Fox body car every day. And people are like, I can't believe you have all these cars and you don't drive them. I'm like, dude, I put a shit ton of miles on Fox body cars. I don't ever need to drive another Fox body car, and I've driven more miles than most people. I mean, when I told you the Florida Highway Patrol cars I use as a sales car, I put 40,000 miles a year on a car calling on clients for one of my dad's companies. So I have driven, I've road raced. I've got one of the Saleen factory team road race cars. I probably put a few thousand miles on that on track. I haven't driven that. We took it to Mid-Ohio. There was a reunion with Steve there, and I chased him around in one of the other General Tire cars. That was kind of cool. But I don't enjoy driving them anymore because my memories of driving them are better than the actual driving of them today, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like meeting an old girlfriend and she's gotten fat, and you'd rather remember her when she was smoking hot than what she looks like today because she doesn't add up to what you're used to. So, no offense to fat girls, but it's that same thing. It's like, how the hell did I drive one of these things, to North Carolina and here and there and everywhere else? I'm talking stock cars, not modified cars. But I own part of a collection of cars too, and we just don't drive any of the cars. It's just they're now investment pieces. So, and then we'll sell some cars off.
The old saying, right? Don't meet your heroes kind of thing, or maybe don't remind yourself of what it was like to meet your heroes.
I'm spoiled. Everything I have today is modern. I've had the opportunity to drive lots of stuff from Lamborghini Countaches to 930 turbos to Ferraris to whatever. And I love cars, to Corvettes to Camaros, whatever. It's really, really hard for me to go back to that old technology and appreciate it the way that I used to appreciate it because it was state of the art when I was driving it, if that makes any sense. Um,
Yep. No, it totally
so
does.
no, I love them. I mean, I think they're great, but I mean, we're 3 hours from Carlisle. I would not jump in a Fox body car, regardless of how many miles are on it, and drive it to the Ford Carlisle show. I will trailer it up there, and I'll drive it from the hotel to the auction. I mean, to the auction, to the show. But I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't want to drive anything that far. You know, I don't know. Call me a
Right.
big pussy. I don't know. I've done it, been there, done that. You know, not going to do it anymore. I can afford not to do that now,
Yeah.
and I paid my dues in Fox Body World. I'm not going to go out there and drive those cars around anymore. It's just every time I drive one, I'm like, why did I like these cars? They drive like shit, you know. But I'm an independent
Right.
Fox people, but but I still own them. I think we've got 20 something Fox cars, if that, if not more. So, I mean, I still have a
Right.
tremendous appreciation for them. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, speaking of modern, tell me about this dark horse. I think you're probably the only guy I know that has one,
Well,
personally.
wanted a new Mustang. My favorite Mustang I'd ever owned was a 17 GT350. I'm sorry, an 18 GT350. I bought it brand new. I loved that car. It was so much fun to drive, had Recaro seats. It felt great driving it. It made all the right noises. It had a Tremec transmission in it. And I had it all the way through COVID. And when COVID ended, I had to sell it. And my wife is like, why are you selling that car? That's the only car that you've ever really enjoyed and driven. I'd put like 4,500 miles on the car, which doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but I drive an F-150 every day because I take 3 rescue dogs to work. So the only time I could drive the car, I would take the dogs home on Friday. I'd meet my wife for lunch at a friend of ours' deli. And then I'd go back to the office. I would drive the car home Friday night, drive it around Saturday because I didn't have the dry ice business. I'd just goof around, drive it around Saturday, drive it to dinner Saturday night, and sometimes bring it back Saturday night because we would take our dogs to the same restaurant because we could sit outside with them. And my world revolves around cars and dogs, and we could sit outside with them. So,
Yeah, we got to
driving
get into the dog thing too. Yeah.
1 or 2 days a week, and I put 4,000 miles on the car. And then when COVID ended, these things were doing stupid money. And I had somebody offer me $16,000 more than I had in the car. And I needed the money. I'd burned through hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting here waiting for the 2 weeks to stop the spread bullshit to end. And it didn't. And, I paid my rent. I paid all my bills. My credit wasn't affected because I had money saved up. And by the time COVID was over, that well was getting shallow. So I sold the car, and I've always wanted another one. But then all the problems started surfacing with the Voodoo motors, with them, having rod bearing problems and everything else. I never drove my car hard. I never even pulled it to red line. I broke it in properly, and it never used any oil. It was a great car. It was all white. I'm not a stripe guy, so it was all white with no stripes with the Recaro seats. And I started looking at the Shelbys again because I wanted to buy another Shelby, and all these problems that people were having with the motors, I was just scared. And to buy an extended warranty on those cars is about almost $5,000 for the motor. And
Ooh.
then you got to worry about if the motor takes a shit, who you going to get to replace it? Can you trust somebody? They're going to scratch your car. And I've got, not to divulge names, I've got a very, very good friend of mine I've known for many years that was very high up at Ford. And he said to me, Mark, do not buy anything with a Voodoo in it unless it's under factory warranty. I can just tell you that because you're going to have it's not if you're going to have a problem, it's when you're going to have a problem. And obviously Ford stopped building that platform. They sold the shit out of those cars and they stopped building that motor. So that says something. So I started looking at GT350s and I was like, And then I got cheap. I didn't want to spend the money. So I bought a Performance Pack 2 car, which was 18, 19, and 20, which basically was the GT350 Magna Ride style suspension with the same size big wheels and tires with 305s all the way around and big brakes. It was a really cool car. It had the 401 digital dash in it, but I hated the M82 transmission. I hated the way that thing shifted, and it was notchy and it felt like shit. And it wasn't the same as the Shelby. So I kept it for like 6 months. We drove it to Ponies in the Smokies. It got 27 miles per gallon on the interstate. It was nuts. And it was a beautiful car. It had 8,000 miles on it. still had factory warranty on it, and I sold it. And I was looking at the new Saleen cars, and I was looking at the new Shelbys, and I love the look of the new Saleen car, but there's been some problems lately with warranty issues and parts availability and other things with that car, and I just didn't want to stick myself in a car that I would be afraid to drive, just because if somebody bumped into me, I couldn't get a body part for it because all the body parts are slated for new production cars. Because I know people that bought a car and said, "Hey, I want a body kit with it," and it took them 6 months or a year. Some people haven't even received their body kits yet, and I just didn't want to be in that movie.
Right.
So, I talked to my friend at Ford, and he said, "Have you thought about a dark horse?" And I said, that's kind of a silly name. Why don't they call it a Shelby? And he goes, "I really can't talk about that." And then later it came out that, they were paying Shelby $800 a car to use his name. I think it was 24 or
wow.
$34 million that they paid Shelby last year for the use of the name. And they just decided, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to come up with our own brand and call it Dark Horse. And I looked at the regular GTs, and to buy a regular GT equipped the way that I wanted it, with Recaro seats and the Magna Ride suspension, the active valve exhaust, it was $69,000 for a GT. I paid 60 for my Shelby. And I'm like, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
so I started looking at the dark horses because they've got a handling pack that has big wheels and tires, huge brakes. And a friend of mine's got one, and I called him, "What do you think?" And he had a GT350, and he goes, "The GT350 is more of a driver's car. You feel a little bit more connected to the road with that car, but the dark horse is a better car." So I went and drove a dark horse, and I'm like, I like the dark horse, and I wanted something that I had factory warranty. I'm not a mod guy, even though we had a performance shop for years. None of my shit was ever tuned. It was never modified. I mean, I might do an aesthetic thing like a carbon fiber splitter, or, change the brake pads out or tint the windows, but I'm not going to put a blower on my car and void the warranty on something, or, tune it or whatever else. Cause I just don't have that luck. I'd be the guy, the transmission would fall out of it, and Ford's like, "Hey, you tuned it, tough shit." So I just never did that. And I have a dealer's license, and if I get a big speeding ticket with a dealer's license, I can lose my insurance, which I'll lose my dealer's license. So I'll get on an on-ramp hard and then nail the brakes before I get on the interstate. But I've had years and years of track time road racing. It's out of my system, I guess. But the dark horse,
Okay.
I wanted a handling pack dark horse, which has the big splitter, the gurney flap in the back, the big wheels and tires, Recaro seats, and a 6-speed. Try to find a 6-speed handling pack car. They're all 10-speed automatics. Well, the 10-speed's faster, the 10-speed this, the 10-speed that. I'm like, I'm not going to drag race this car. I said, I want to be able to downshift and hear the exhaust burble, and I want to, upshift and feel it. And it took me a while to find one, and I found exactly what I wanted, but it was still too much money. And then the Ford sale with the, employee pricing came out. I got $9,000 off the window sticker of the car. And I've had a couple friends of mine in the last year or two have gotten medical issues, sick, whatever. And you get to be a certain age, you're like, hey, I CrossFit, I eat right, I do all the things I'm supposed to do, but I could drop dead tomorrow. And I said to myself, I need to buy a car like this while I can still get in and out of it and enjoy it and have fun with it. There was a funny meme thing going around. The guy's like, don't buy a car, it's a depreciating asset. And the guy's like, I'm a depreciating asset. And it was funny because the guy's like, I'm 38, my back hurts. I'm like, shit, I'd love to be 38 again. And, it hurts. And, there's another one. When I wake up in the morning and this hurts, is this just, I hurt myself, or is this how I'm going to be forever? And I just said, fuck it. I'm going to go buy a car. And I drove it tonight. We went to dinner. I drove it back. I'm very fortunate. I've had all kinds of cool shit in my life. And, I'm not going to drive it home tonight because I'm going to take my dogs to work tomorrow. And I've got a Raptor truck I drive every day, and they get in the Raptor truck. I mean, I got bath mats on the seats. I don't care. I vacuum it out. If it gets scratched, I'll get another seat cover. It doesn't make any difference. And, so that's why I bought the dark horse. And it was funny because I drove the dark horse to the Saleen Nationals, and I didn't have a Saleen. And people are looking at me, and I'm like, look, guys, I love the car, but until Saleen gets back on better footing, I just didn't see spending 70 or $80,000 on a car that I want to enjoy as an investment. I think the Saleen's going to be worth more money in the long run, without a doubt. But I wasn't buying something for the long run. I was buying something to get out and drive on the weekends. And like the Voodoo car, I was worried about it blowing up. Every time I got in the Saleen car, I'd be worried something would happen and I'd get hit. And then now I've got a car that's worthless because I can't get the parts for it. So that's the dark horse story. That's why it's dark horse.
Yeah, interesting. It's been a little while since I looked into them. I can't even remember what the stats are on the dark horse. Like, what's power? What are they rated at?
It's supposed to be 500 horsepower is what it's supposed to be. The Shelby was 526. It doesn't feel any different to me. It's fast as shit. I've never understood, even the performance shop. These guys then put a Whipple on it and then it makes 810 at the tire. I mean, I've driven a bunch of cars that made 700-800 at the tire. It's not usable power. You get on it and you're in a ditch somewhere where you're spinning. Very rarely are you on a road surface with a proper tire that it really hooks up and shoots you in the back and you're gone. And shit happens really fast at 800 wheel horsepower that a lot of people, that's why I think a lot of people have issues with Mustangs and crashing them, because they just can't react fast enough. And the chassis was never designed to have 100 horsepower. And not that they break anything, but it does different stuff when you double the horsepower, of a car almost. And I looked at the RTR stuff. Vaughn Gitten's a friend. I've known Vaughn for many years. We did a partnership with him on a road race team. And the guys that work there, I'm friends with. But it was more money than I wanted to spend. And I was worried about, resale with that and everything else. And I just, and parts availability isn't a problem with them. But it was hard to find an RTR Mustang that was built on a premium pack, because all the ones that I found were built on the base cars with the split screen in there. And I like the full screen. If I'm going to spend that much money, I want, leather seats. I want, something nicer. And the ones that I found were too new and they weren't discounting them, enough for me to feel comfortable buying something like that. So that's why I did the dark horse, but it's neat. It's a cool car. It's fun to drive.
So I'm glad you brought up the RTR, because this is one that I'm curious what 20 or 30 years from now looks like for RTR, right? This conversation's kind of revolved around Saleen and Shelby and all the rest of it. Like, is RTR going to be that in 30 years, do you think?
I think so. Vaughn, like I said, Vaughn is a friend, and this has nothing to do with my friendship with him.
Totally.
But I think he's built one hell of a brand. He has the attention of the public. People love his cars. That he signs up. People line up to get his autograph. He's a very personable person. He's super nice guy. Excuse me one second. And he's relatable. And I think he builds a hell of a nice car. I mean, the cars look great. The wheels look good. The stance is good. He has a bunch of great people working for him that are younger people that understand social media, understand the cars. But the interesting thing is, when we were at Ponies in the Smokies, there was an RTR gathering, and most of the guys looked like me. They were all older guys with gray hair, because it's still a $70,000, $80,000 car. But the kids like it too. Right. And that's the difference. He makes the car, the car looks super cool. And with his partnership with Ford, it makes a big difference too, because he has the blessing of Ford to modify their car. And he gets technology up front that other people don't get. So he can be first to the market with stuff. And that's really, really important. You can now buy an RTR branded car directly from Ford, and you can order it online. It's a V6 drift car based car, but it's just a great looking car, and it's available on the Ford website. So I think that he has the foundation for a long-term collectible car. I don't know if it's going to take 10 years or 20 years. I might not be around for his car to be a collector car, but I think he's on the pathway to make that happen if he keeps going the direction he's going now. He's doing it all right. And it was funny because we've known each other for many years, and we were at Ponies in the Smokies, and I was looking at one of our buddies' GTD, And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody coming up, and it's Vaughn, and he comes over to shake my hand. Hey man, how you doing? It's good to see you. What's up? And I was like, yeah, man. We started talking. He's like, oh shit, I got to speak. And he was literally coming in the building to give a presentation. He saw me, and that's just him. He stopped what he was doing to say hello. And he's just a very kind-hearted, very, very nice guy. And he walked away, and people are looking at me like, who the fuck is that guy that Vaughn Gittin went over to say hello to him? You know? And it was just like, I've known him for 10 or 12 years. He's just, I knew him when he was in Maryland. He's just a nice guy. And then the other guy standing around, you know Vaughn? And I'm like, yeah, we had a road race car with him. I know him very well. And it was just funny. Just a super nice guy. But yes, I think his stuff will be.
Funny.
I think it's collectible now, and I think it will be.
Right.
I think,
I've heard the exact.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mark. Yeah. I've heard the exact same thing. I've never met Vaughn myself, but I do know people that have. And funny enough, one of my friends, he says they've been at events where, following the first time they'd met him, and they'll be at events down the road, and Vaughn gives them the, hey guys, how you doing? And they're going like, how the shit do you remember us? You sign 10,000 autographs in a day and you remember us, right? So no, I've heard that too. But I know that the angle at which I was, I guess, asking that question from is, I wonder about how that will look 20 or 30 years from now, because when you take someone like Steve or Carol or whatever, like they were in an era where I guess some people could make the argument like, hey, look, things were cheaper at the time and people made less money and whatever, but there wasn't as big of a gap in the financial. But okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you. That was before the internet.
Yeah, please do.
Right? We have the internet now.
Right.
Every kid that's 6 or 8 years old has a cell phone that he can look at videos on and look at cars on. So as much as people are like, oh, I'm so worried about the next generation of car person, I think there are a ton more car people out there than we realize. They're just closet car people because they can't afford to buy the car. But when they get to be old enough to buy the car, I think they're going to want it. And there's tons of young people that are lined up to meet him and talk to him. And his stuff is all over the place. And I think that the internet makes up for some of the gap in affordability, because every young kid has to have a dream, and for the dream to become a reality. And if you can't dream about the car, you can't see the car, then it's all hearsay, or you just don't know. And then you fall in love with the Volkswagen that the next door neighbor has because it's the only car you see. Well, that's not the case today. There's Instagram. That's what I'm saying. His guys with all the social media, the stuff's getting out there and the cars are smoking the tires and they're going sideways and the kids are going, that's cool as shit. I'd love to have one of those cars. So to interrupt your train of thought, I think we have to, as a little bit, you're younger than I am, but as older guys have to look at the influence of social media and the ability of tapping into that young brain and really getting deep into that brain, because they can spend hours and hours and hours and hours looking at shit that we couldn't do. You would see cars when you went to the car show, or maybe cruising on Friday or Saturday night on the main drag of your town, but it wasn't 24/7. It's 24/7 right now. And I think that it's going to make a difference. And the cars are going to get cheaper, meaning that, yeah, they're expensive now, but, they will be used cars at some point before they become collectible cars. And I think with the, what's the word I'm looking for? The electric cars not being as prevalent out there without the government and other people pushing the electric cars, because people don't want to buy that shit. Real car people, unless it's if one of my friends has got a Plaid, a Tesla Plaid. Holy shit, that thing was fast. But we played with it for half an hour and they had to charge it for 2 hours. I wouldn't give you 10 cents for a Tesla. I'm sorry. It's not my thing. I'd rather ride a fucking horse than have a Tesla to drive. The Plaid, maybe, but it's just not my thing. There's no soul in driving an electric car. It's like driving a golf cart with no wind noise. Okay. The regenerative braking, all that shit is weird. And if you're a real car person, it's very, very hard to get on that electric bandwagon. But, all the manufacturers have gone back to, as the Brits call it, petrol, cars, because Porsche's almost gone out of business with the money they've invested in the EVs, because they were doing it because the government was going to fine them, but the customer didn't want it. And they couldn't read their customer base well enough to know, even if it says Porsche on it, we're not going to buy this. The Taycan, which was like $160,000 car, you can buy them all day for 50, 60 grand now for the same car because nobody wants them. And you start having problems with one of those cars, you got to put a battery pack in it, you're fucked, And I mean, we see it with, there's a guys across the street work on Teslas, and they'll bring these Teslas in and they need a battery pack or this, or this or that. The car would have to be free to make it worth repairing. So anyway, that's sort of a roundabout interruption of what your thought process was, but I felt like that was the time to interject it. And that's been the most, that's been the hardest thing for me to get to realize, is that the things that turned me into a car person, the things that maybe turned you into a car person, are not the same influences that the kids today have. I don't have any children. I never did kids. We just have dogs. So, but I mean, I do know there's a bunch of kids. My nephew didn't get his driver's license until he was 18. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, I was driving when I was, 14, 15 years old. My parents didn't know about it. So, it's just different today. But anyway, sorry, I continue that I interrupted you with.
No, it's all good. I know when you touched on a whole bunch of other cool shit too. But I guess going back to your example earlier about you and your dad going in to buy that 85 T-top, you saved up $7 grand. Dad's making up the other 6 or 7 for you. And that Saleen catches your eye, which is like another 8 or 9 beyond that, right? Like the starting point at which you were going in to buy that 85 at was a hell of a lot easier and more attainable for a fella that wanted to mow lawns, wash cars, do whatever to save up a few bucks. Like these kids that are appreciating these RTR cars through their phone or TV or whatever are looking at this going like, holy shit, I got to save up $80,000. Well, actually, just to get the base model Ford GT, they got to save up 65. And then to get the RTR, like, you know what I mean? The starting point is just shifted so much further for these kids.
True. But you have to have a dream. And the thing is, if you don't have a goal and a dream to achieve, then you're not going to want to work hard. And if it makes that kid work his ass off, get a better job, go to school to learn how to weld, go to be a plumber so he can make money or she can make money, then it's a good thing in a sense, but there has to be some sort of equalization with the car prices. And I've never seen the manufacturers bring prices down. But to give you an example, I look back and I bought a Raptor in 14 that was like $54,000. I couldn't believe I was spending that much money. The last one that we bought, basically the same truck. Obviously, the one had a mod motor, and this one's got an EcoBoost in it. $80,000 for a base truck. And I couldn't afford that if I hadn't been owning. I bought Raptors for years and they don't depreciate like a regular F-150. So I had a third of the price saved up in equity the payments I'd made faster than it depreciated. If I hadn't put that chunk down, I couldn't afford to buy a truck like that today. And there's a serious problem with that. Our incomes haven't gone up fast enough to be able to make people afford the Mustang. And I think that's the reason that the S650 has not sold, is it's just too fucking expensive. And, people, just buy the EcoBoost. I've driven the EcoBoost. Do they drive okay? There's nothing like the sound of a V8 Mustang with a manual transmission. And even the EcoBoost are $35,000, $38,000. And that's for a relatively base vehicle. And I just, again, not to offend anybody, it's not fun to drive compared to driving a V8 car, to me, for my generation. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what it's going to take, because obviously the people that own these cars don't want to take 50, 60% depreciations in them. And if the cars start depreciating that fast, people aren't going to buy them new, because Mustang people are regular people. Like I said earlier in our conversation, a lot of them are blue collar, hardworking people. And you can't go and buy a car and lose your ass on it if you drive it for 3 years and put 35,000 miles on it and you can't get back out of it what you still owe on it. They will never buy another Mustang product again once they pay it off.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue that
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to fix that problem, you know?
Yeah. It's very true. I guess maybe like staying on that RTR thought for a moment, if you think about, say, current day 2026 edition. Oh shit, did my camera freeze on me there?
Yeah, it's a little
Mark,
bit.
am I coming in and out of a frozen
Now
photo?
you're coming in and out of it. It's kind of cool looking. Yeah, no, it was partially
Oh
the
Christ.
right side of your face is frozen, but the left side's not. So
I know, look at this.
that's kind of wild. So this is all AI.
Fuck, it did this to me the other day.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember
I
that
don't know
Vaughn's
if I
built
can.
cars since like 2010. So there are some older RTR stuff out there. So it's not like all the stuff, it's still doing it. It's not like all the stuff is $80,000 cars. His popularity really took off with the 550 chassis, and it's really rocketed with the 650 chassis. But it's
Right.
like the guy that buys an entry-level 911 SC and he can't afford a 993 or a 930 turbo. It's still people spending money on your product, and eventually they'll get to the point where they can afford the more expensive product. I'm just glad it's not my camera messed up. It's yours.
Yeah.
That is
I know,
really
right? The guy that invites you on here.
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll leave this paused asshole over here and I'll just come to this side of the screen.
That's fine.
So well, yeah, because what I'm wondering might happen, which it seems that history has gone this way, so it'll most likely repeat itself again. But, the 2025 model RTR that sells for however much money, well, it's going to depreciate over, say, the next 15, 20 years. And it's at that point that maybe these kids that are falling in love with them now can be like, yeah, you know what? Now's my time to get them. And the old wave format, right? Up they go in value. And then that helps the kid catapult themselves to like, you know what? I'm going to sell this one now because it's now more sought after.
Mhm.
And then I can afford the new one. And maybe the whole just cycle repeats itself. I don't know. But
Well, I mean, that does happen.
it does perplex me.
To give you an example, I've got a friend of mine. He's a dear friend. He's 32 and he loves the new Edge Mustangs 99 through 04. And that's because that's what he grew up with. And I remember when they were worth nothing. And now, those cars are really taking off. 03, 04 Cobras, some of the other Saleen specialty cars. And, he drives some of his stuff. He's got 12 of those cars now. And that's what he wanted. Now he's making money and he can buy that stuff. So it's interesting seeing the cycle. It's no different than years ago with the Shelby Group. We went to Domino's Farms, which is Moynihan, the guy that owned Domino's Pizza. It was like it's his place with a museum. And there's a bunch of Duesenbergs in there. I mean, I'm talking the big friggin' Duesenbergs with the humongous tires and, 16 cylinders or whatever. And those were like the first multi-million-dollar cars that are out there. They're not anymore because the guys that all love that shit are all dead. And
Right.
to give you an example, I had a 65 Thunderbird in here. And it was a woman a little bit older than me, and her dad had given it to her. And it had been sitting for years. And we got the car running and cleaned it up. And she said, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you want to do with this car?" She said, "I'm going to sell it." I said, "What do you want for the car?" She goes, $60,000. I was, "What?" And I said, "It's not an F-Bird, which is like a blower car." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's a $15,000 car." She goes, "No, it's a $60,000 car." I said, "The person that wants to buy that car is either going into a nursing home or in a nursing home." And I said, nobody wants these cars. And we advertised the car for about 4 months and ended up selling it to a 78-year-old guy in Indianapolis who I knew somebody that he knew. It was kind of funny, for $15,000. And she goes, "I can't believe that's all it's worth."
Wow.
It's the cycle of cars. I said, the guys that are in their 50s and 60s like me, I don't want that car. I never saw that car driving around. I never dreamt of that car. Yeah, we saw Suzanne Summers in it in, what was it, Hollywood, whatever that movie was, Hollywood Nights, whatever that movie was. But it's not something that Somebody's pulling in my parking lot. Make sure I don't have to shoot somebody. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Um,
Nope.
but it's it's just a different generational thing. It's just not the same person wants to buy that car. And that's what people have to understand. That's why it's important. And that's why Jim Farley, the president of Ford, said, we will continue to build V8 Mustangs regardless of what happens, because that's what's necessary. And that the cycle goes through as the guys get older, their kids graduate, they have money again, they have equity in a home, they go buy their dream car. So that same car that I wanted in high school, which was a Saleen Mustang, is now, my generations of dream cars. And, but I mean, eventually,
Yeah.
no, going to want the early Fox body cars. It's just life. It's what's going to happen. But they'll be throwing dirt on me then. It's not going to matter. You know, I will
Yeah.
be,
We'll be long gone.
yeah, I'll be a figment of history that people can watch my shit on YouTube and go, who was that guy? If anybody even cares anymore. Not to be on
Yeah,
a bad
it's
note,
true.
but you know what I mean. It's just the cycle of life. It's just one of those things. But ride the wave while you can, because it's fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's true. Okay, buddy, I know it's getting late for you, but I did want to touch real quick on the dog thing, because I know you and your wife are very involved in rescuing some pooches from around the world.
yeah, since we never had children, we not that I don't have an appreciation for children, I just don't like they scream and yell, and um we were both busy. She's
Cost you money.
yeah, she's in advertising, and so I couldn't buy that car part if I had to pay for college. Anyway, and we've always done rescue. We did rescue for miniature pinchers, which looks like a Doberman you put in the dryer too long. We did that for about 10 years. And then the dog that I had that I took to work with me every day unexpectedly passed away. And he was my buddy. I had a lightning truck at the time, and he'd jump in the lightning and ride to work with me. I'd get out, he'd jump out of the truck, he'd go into the bank, he'd get treats, never had a leash on. And we off leash trained all our dogs. People are like, holy shit, that's a little dog. He's not going to haul ass. I'm like, he ain't going anywhere. He's got a great life. And he just followed me everywhere. At the performance shop, there was a bench out front. He'd sleep there. And when he wanted to come in, he'd come to the door and scratch the door, and he'd come inside. And, it was just crazy. So anyway, after he passed away, I wanted a dog that was my dog. And where we like to vacation is in the Caribbean. I don't understand snow and people that want to be cold on a vacation. I want a drink with a flower in it, and I want to see my feet in the water, and bikinis. Not necessarily me wearing one, but somebody else looks good wearing one. And
Right.
so we've been to the Caribbean multiple times, all the different islands, and there's always these stray dogs on the islands that come over to you. And we were in Turks and Caicos, and these dogs came over and hung out with us for the entire week we were there. I'm like, what kind of dogs are these? And the people are like, they're called mongrels. And I'm like, a mongrel? And they're like, yeah, it's just a stray dog, just a mutt. And then the other people on the island, the non-islanders that had moved there, they said, no, it's called a pot cake. I'm like, a pot? And they were like, yeah, because the islanders ate a lot of rice and beans. And at the end of the night, there'd be a big cake of rice in the bottom of the pot, and they would just feed the stray dogs. So they became pot cake dogs. And they're all super sweet,
Okay.
have a certain look. But if you look up the word pot cake, it's in Wikipedia, and it's an actual quote unquote breed, I guess. So my wife and I started working with a rescue based off the island of St. Lucia called Help Paws, HELPAWS. And they're actually based out of Toronto, eh? So the first dog, that was a Canadian. So the first dog we got, let me back up. The reason we wanted dogs from St. Lucia and not Turks is I wanted a smaller dog that wouldn't want to eat our min pins, because sometimes dogs of different sizes don't get along. And it seemed like the dogs that were coming from St. Lucia, I mean, they're all inbred mutts, they are, but they were a little bit smaller. And we found this rescue, and the lady's like, look, we're not going to adopt a dog to you in the United States because we don't have a support team, and we don't know what if it doesn't work out and you're not going to keep the dog. I'm like, look, lady, we've done rescue for 20 years or 10 years at the time. I can give you plenty of references, whatever else. And she finally I guess she had a good feeling. She trusted us. And we had to drive to Toronto to go pick up this dog. And I didn't tell my wife anything about it. So it was like the week before I started posting pictures of this dog, and she's like, did you get a dog? We already had like 5 dogs. And I'm like, I wanted a dog for myself. The dog that passed away was named Cosmo. and I just wanted my own dog that I could take to work. That was my dog. And I said, I'm going to Toronto to the airport to meet this cargo flight and pick up the dog I got. Do you want to go? And she's like, no, I'm not going to Canada. I'm not going to go get another dog. I'm like, okay. She's like, who's going to go with you?
Right.
It was like 12 hours. I was like, I'm going to stop at my friends in Buffalo. I'm going to drive up. And she finally broke down and said, I'll go with you. And now she's full-fledged involved in everything. We have 5 pot cake dogs from the islands. They're all rescues. And I take 3 to work and 2 stay at home with my wife. And they're great dogs. I mean, if you come to my shop, they're going to greet you. They stay in the office. They don't go in the area where we do dry ice cleaning because there's too much dirt. If I get it clean in there, which it usually is that way, at least a couple days a month, they're allowed in there. But it's a 401c. So we try to raise money for them and help out. And it's just great. And people know me as much as the dog guy as the Mustang guy. So, I mean, it could be worse. So, but yeah, they're pretty, I was going to bring one of them with me to the show, but it was just too far to go, and I was worried about restaurants that can eat outside and everything else. But yeah. So that's my dog connection. They're called pot cakes, and the rescue's called
Very
Help.
Cool. I'm Help Paws. Okay. I'm glad that went the way it did. When you told me that there's something to do with dinner, I went, oh shit. Don't tell me the dogs are dinner.
Oh no. I'm not Korean, so we're good. But no, we have some people that we do CrossFit with, and we eat dinner with them every Friday night. And we just pick a restaurant. And when I totally forgot about this last night, and you said tonight, I work every day of the week. So it's like, people say when they're retired, every day's the same. Every day's the same to me. I get up in the morning at 5:30 or 6. I come to work, I work all day, and then I go home and take a shower and do it all over again. And so I didn't realize it was Friday night. And I'm putting it in my calendar on my phone so I'd remember, like, shit, we've got dinner at Old Time People, dinner at 5:45. We got to be done so I can get back down here and come back to the office. So there wouldn't be somebody scratching at my office door at home wanting to get in or barking or anything else. But yeah, no, it's a local farm to table restaurant. I don't eat fast food. I don't eat chain restaurants. I don't do any of that stuff. Too much bad shit on that about that.
Oh,
I was really pissed because I love Reese's peanut butter cups, and there was something about Reese's peanut butter cups not having any peanut butter in it. And looking at how they make it, I'm like, fuck, now I can't have a Reese's peanut butter cup. It's what do you do for fun? I can't drink soda anymore. I will drink Mexican Coke, but it's still there's so much bad shit. It's like, you got to have some vice. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I got to have something. I don't do drugs. But I can't even have a goddamn Oreo cookie or a Reese's peanut butter cup anymore. It's just like, what's the world coming to? So sorry.
Yeah. Hey,
my diet for the night.
Got introduced. Yeah. Well, speaking of Oreos, I got introduced to deep fried Oreos the other day. This is a Southern thing. I've never had one before in my life. So the restaurant we were at, the gal says, do you want dessert? And I said, I'm probably good. She goes, you sure? You should try the deep fried Oreos. I'm like, what the fuck is a deep fried Oreo?
Yeah, you need to eat this. You're not fat. You need to eat this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So I'm like, well, shit, I'll try anything twice. Sure. Get us an order of those, right? Anyway, they show up and my kids who love anything sweet, like all kids, they're looking at these like, what is in front of us, Dad? I'm like, I don't know, but deep fried dog shit's good. So I'm sure these are going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we all tried deep fried Oreos and everyone is a fan.
Oh,
so
no.
Maybe the deep frying cooks all the bad shit out of them.
Nah, no. I mean, if you really want to have a bad night, Google, Oreo videos, or, I mean, I was a big sushi guy because I thought, that's, it's natural and whatever, all the worms in the sushi. And it's just like, holy shit. My wife is like, yeah, we can't eat that anymore. And then she'll show me the video and I'm like, I should be about 50 pounds lighter than I am because I'm afraid to eat anything anymore. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, and the food, I have to say, where we were in Chattanooga, every restaurant we went to, except for the banquet food at the banquet, that was friggin' horrible. But the all the other restaurants we went to, including the restaurant in the host hotel, was fantastic. I had some great meals down there.
Right.
So it was nice. I like food. I'm a food person, Yeah.
Yeah. No, me too. I love stuff that you can taste the love in, right? Somebody put some time and effort into it.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's rich and
yeah,
it's good for you, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a fun trip. It was definitely.
agreed. Yeah. Well, listen, buddy, I know you got to get back to work tomorrow, and you're an hour ahead of me, so we'll cut her here. But thank you so much for this, Mark. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun talking. I mean, I've been very fortunate in my life, and I've met some really, really cool people, and I've had a neat ride. If I didn't wake up tomorrow morning, I can't really complain. Plus my wife is I've got a huge insurance policy. She'll be rolling. Hopefully she'll wait at least a week or two before she starts dating. But no, life is short. You got to laugh and you got to have fun. And my motto is not everybody gets the golden ticket and the ride to to riches. But the life doesn't revolve only around money. It revolves around, in my opinion, friends, things you've been able to achieve, people's opinion of you, and how you affect other people's lives in a good way. And I feel like myself and my friends have done that. And I know a lot of miserable people that have a shit ton of money that could spend as much money as they wanted to every day, but have a horrible life. So, you know, goals are neat to try to get achieved, but not every goal revolves around having $1 million in a bank account. Um, that's just the way that I look at it. I mean, I don't have any regrets at all, except there was this one girl anyway, that in my life. But there's always that one you're like, no, I'm dating somebody. I can't. Yeah. Anyway, we need to cut that
Yeah.
one out. But anyway, so,
Yeah.
but no, we're all human,
No,
and I love to
that's
laugh.
very well said.
Yeah, I love to laugh and have fun and cut up, and that's what's really nice about, the Saleen group is that a lot of these guys are just a ton of fun. Some of these guys are multimillionaires. There's other guys that live paycheck to paycheck, and we all put our pants on the same way and go, and everybody has mutual respect for everybody, and it's really, really fun and just a good time. So I'm glad you got to meet those people because there's some really, really good people in that group.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. I know on last week's podcast, I went on and on about it. I said, I'll admit going into it, because I don't really belong to any sort of car clubs, like I pick and choose if I go to a Cars and Coffee or whatever, not like pretentiously. I don't know. I kind of like my time to myself in the shop and whatever. So I don't belong to any clubs, and I didn't really have an appreciation for what that was like. And anyway, after experiencing it all and meeting a bunch of the people and stuff, I went, geez, this is a really neat group. This is a family, you know,
Mhm.
and people give a shit about one another. And to your point, yeah, it's like leave all the bullshit at the door kind of stuff, like it doesn't matter. No one's comparing, tax
We,
returns or anything.
we
It's
did whip.
just,
We
we're
did
all here
whip.
for the cars.
Yeah, we did whip it out in the lobby to see who had the biggest. No, but the the funny, I mean, the thing that people don't understand, and I know we were going to end this, but one of the guys that is in in Chicago, we got invited to participate in the what was it called, the McCacken, which is the Muscle Car Corvette Nationals, and Celine got to be a
Okay.
featured mark there. Well, I brought one of the Celine race cars to Detroit for the Motor City Fox Fest. And I said to my buddy, I was like, hey, do you have any space you could keep this? Because it's already going to be all the way the hell up here. I don't want to tow it up here again. That was a real pain in the ass towing in Michigan. Those roads are fucked up on the way to go there. And so he said, yeah, just I'll get my trailer and I'll pick it up from you. And I'll keep it at my house. He kept the car at his house for 4 or 5 months and wouldn't charge him anything, loaded the car on his trailer, brought it to the show at the where the McCacken was. We flew in. I felt like a rock star. I went to the show. My car's already in there. It's on display. I left. He picked the car up, brought it back to his house. I sent a truck to go pick it up at his house. And I'm like, what do I owe you? I got to do something for you. He's like, dude, we're good. It was fun. I got to have a General Tire race car that I didn't have to pay for in my garage for, a couple of months and play with your car. That's the kind of people that,
Yeah.
that I'm friendly with that are in the group. And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Car
just
guys.
absolutely. Yeah. That, and, you trust, $200,000 car to just leave it with somebody and not even think twice about it. So that's the other aspect too.
Yeah.
So, and the next one's going to be
Yeah,
at a casino in Pennsylvania. So that should be fun too, because I have a little gambling issue.
absolutely.
Will probably be need
Oh,
to start saving some money so I can have some fun. Yeah. Yep. It'll be fun. And
right.
they're going to be multicolored cars. And my buddy that's down here has a bunch of the custom Saleen painted cars. So we're probably going to have to rent a tractor trailer and ship 5 or 6 cars up there. And then we'll be moving cars
Right.
around. So if you decide to come again, then you'll get to help us move cars around.
Okay, deal.
Yep.
I'm cheap labor, so
Nah, no worries. But if I can help with anything else, feel free to reach out. I really enjoyed talking to you. I didn't know you had a podcast. I didn't know you until, a couple of days ago. So I'm gonna have to catch up on all your stuff you already have. And if I can ever help with anything with your shop, any advice or any questions, you've got my number. Feel free to reach out.
totally. I will do, Mark. Yeah, no, thank you very much for doing this, sir. It was a pleasure.
It's fun. It's great. You don't realize how much shit you've done in your life till you start talking about it. It just seems like the pathway that I've been on, but I've been very lucky, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yep. All right, well, I
Okay, buddy,
appreciate
we'll leave her there. Don't go anywhere. We'll shut her down. Yeah, thanks, Mark.